everybody. We are back for another episode of the Multiverse Experience podcast. As always, I am your host, Steven, aka The Economistic on Twitter. It's very exciting to be here. This is a huge week for the MultiversX ecosystem, and you should know why. This week is xDay number 2 happening in Bucharest, Romania. And I'm going to cut to the chase right now that I will be there. So we've got a lot to get into today, but I am preparing to head out of town pretty soon here. So I wanted to be sure to get this episode out and share the energy with all of you. And most importantly, tomorrow, beginning at 5 p.m. UTC, I am doing a 24-hour Mexathon, Mex2One marathon hosted on X. So we'll dive into that a little bit more. But bringing it back around, this is episode 3, season 2 of MVX podcast. I'm excited to be with you, reporting on news, events, crypto, AI, Web3, metaverses, all that good stuff. And if you're interested to check out season 1 of the podcast, you might like it as well. I started it in 2021 November with a friend of mine, Alec, and he and I powered through about 21 episodes talking about developments in the industry as well as developments in MultiversX as well, which used to be called Elron Network, and last year in Paris, France, they rebranded from Elron Network to Multiverse to the power of X. A little bit of a mouthful, but the idea of MultiversX has definitely grown on me, as well as a lot of the community. So stick around in this episode. We're going to get into a few different things, and primarily the focus is going to be on xDay, of course. Today is the 16th, and in just a few days I will be flying out, but lots to kind of take care of between then and now. I'm excited, and looking forward to everything that's about to happen. So as I mentioned, season 2 of MVX podcast is going to be focused on bringing different guests into the channel. So on the screen in front of you, you can see what we've done so far this season. Opened up the season with conversation with DivXman, great community member, and then the second episode was with Serenation, who was a little bit more bearish on the whole outlook of cryptocurrency. And then most recently we had kind of a special episode with King Jimmy C on X, and we titled this one The Healing Journey Part 2. So definitely each one of these episodes you'll get a lot out of, and the most recent one with Jimmy is really directed at the mentality of healing. You'll hear about James's story that kind of led him to Elrond, which of course, as we know, EGLD is MultiversX, and it's a really cool story to hear, and I'm excited to see. I think James will be there. I'm confident James will be there, but lots of other community members will be at xDay this year as well. So really excited to finally make the decision that I'll be at xDay. So definitely come up to me and say hey, and let's try to grab a drink or something like that. Some food. I've not ever experienced the cuisine of Romania, so I'm just, how could I not be excited to get going on more traveling abroad and all the excitement within there. So this will be the third time that I have seen the MultiversX team. I'm showing off a little bit of my swag that I've got over the years. This is the MultiversX hat that I got at last year's xDay. Pretty cool trucker style hat with a little snapback going there. This hat I actually got later in Austin, Texas this past April at Consensus. So looking forward to what sort of swag will be available this year for xDay number 2, hosted in the hometown of MultiversX, rather the home country being Romania. So we're going to get a little bit more into that, but first and foremost, please drop a like, subscribe, and comment. Of course, it always helps the algorithm, and we're going to get into it a little bit more. I already mentioned, I believe, that I will be doing a 24-hour marathon on X, which is Twitter. So this is MEX21. MEX21 is a bit of a trend that I ended up beginning earlier this year that really took the DEX token of MultiversX, which is MEX, and it got a lot of excitement, got a lot of attention, and it was clear that there was a lot of community surrounding the MEX token. And this is the second time that I'm going to try to, kind of just get the energy going, and it's all directed at xDay, which is coming up. So as I said already, drop a like because it helps the algorithm, and the point of the MEX21 Mexathon is what we're calling it. MEX21 24-hour marathon is really just to spread awareness on the MEX token, but of course the whole idea and the excitement behind this movement is that if we spread awareness about the MEX token, I think that will lead people to discovering MultiversX blockchain as well as EGLD, and now with xDay just around the corner, the Mexathon will point and bring a lot of attention to xDay. This will be beginning tomorrow, depending on where you are in the world, but October 17th at 5 p.m. UTC. So that's whenever things will kind of officially kick off, but the real test for me will be overnight. Part of the reason that I'm doing this is for the sake of kind of sleep depriving myself before my flight. It's going to be a long time in the air, and I figured I'll just stay up all night before my flight, so that way whenever I land in Romania, I'll be pretty pooped and ready to hit the hay, recharge, and get ready for several days of exciting events. On the screen in front of you, you can see the profile for today's guest, Rad Reese, or Tom Reese. He is a really cool friend of mine and doing a lot of incredible stuff. His profile picture is actually taken of him in Africa, where he is spearheading a huge charitable movement, which we will get into in this conversation. Definitely check the description for the timestamps of today's episode. It's going to help you kind of figure out, pick and choose what things you want to hear about. Looking forward to sharing that conversation, and cannot wait to see you, Tom, at xDay in just a couple days now. It's freaking crazy. All right, so anyway, while we're on the topic of xDay, on your screen in front of you, there's a little side event going on, X Night 2023. So this is the event of, I dare say, the xDay experience. It's going to be a lot of fun. You can see who's partnered and who's behind all of this. And I have actually been working with them, and they are going to help me fund my trip to xDay. As you can see here, are you an NFT collection or project owner? So these are the different tiers that you can purchase for the event. And check this out. This is the venue that the party is going to be at. So if you are having a project, or if you have an NFT, Web3 startup, whatever it is, and you want some advertisement for this incredible night at this beautiful location in Romania, send me a DM right now, because I can help get you a discount on those different tiers. As you can see in front of you, the gold package is most expensive, but it's basically just top to bottom coverage. So if any of these gold, silver, or bronze, if any of these look interesting to you, send me a DM as soon as possible so that we can start getting you prepared to share your project at xDay this year at X Night 2023. But if you're just an individual checking this video out, this is definitely something to participate in. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Here you can see the different prices of tickets, and I'm pretty excited. As I already mentioned, I'm just excited to go to xDay, to be there with the community, and I think that this night is going to be a whole lot of fun at Kong Bucharest. So really looking forward to seeing everybody there, having a fun time, just bringing that Elron energy if you're an OG, MultiversX energy, whatever you want to call it, XMEX energy if you're a Mex addict like me. So yeah, like I said, reach out to me if this is something that interests you. It will help me fund the trip to xDay, but it's also going to give you a lot of coverage and a lot of eyes on your project at the biggest event for MultiversX every year, so like I said, we're going to get into more about what is xDay, but just kind of knocking these agenda items off the list. And next up on the list for today is I just want to redirect your attention to your screen where I have done a little bit of a giveaway using the Pulsar money application on X, which if you don't know about it, it's really cool. As you can see up here, all you have to do is tag Pulsar money and tell it how much of which token and how many reactions you want it to be sent to. So as you can see here, this beautifully designed graphic here for the 24-hour Mex2One marathon beginning October 17th, 5 p.m. UTC. So this is actually the reason that I kicked this off back in July. I made just a really quick little tweet. As you can see here, Mex2One is inevitable, which I do believe, and you're welcome to debate me on it, but it's all in good fun because, again, the whole point is like bringing the community together, memeing, not to call Mex a meme coin, but memeing and having fun and just being silly. And just a shout out to where this all began was actually early in, I think, March or April this year. And I was talking with somebody in the community and talking about how ridiculous it would be for Mex to go to $1, considering the price that it's taken over the bear market and where it is right now. Basically, in order to get to $1, the percentage increase would have to be a few million percent of increase. So I was just like goofing around on Twitter, which it was then technically, but it's X now. I just got to get that ingrained in my head. It just feels weird to call Twitter just X, just a letter. So drop a like if you agree with me, drop a comment, subscribe to the channel, because I'm doing this channel all by myself. I mentioned season 1 was with my friend Alec. But he stepped away, and now I'm doing everything from shooting the episodes to storyboarding, figuring out and lining up the guests and everything. So you'll see later in this episode as well that I'm really excited to share with you my first sponsored segment, which is going to be the Checker token. So stay tuned. I'll be dropping just first impressions on what exactly Checker is, and we're going to try to explain a little bit of the details, but we'll get there in just a moment, because back to Mex2One, why should you attend? So if you're checking out this channel for the first time, or if you don't even know what EGLD or Mex is, that's basically why you should attend. So if you don't know much or anything about the Mex token, I'm going to be pretty active on my Twitter account for 24 hours. I might be doing live Twitter Spaces. I might even try to start a live stream on my Twitter or on my X page, X platform, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, so why you should attend? First off, follow me on X. The Economistic is my name, if I didn't already say that already. So if you don't know anything, or if you don't know that much about the Mex token, this will be a great opportunity for you to dive in, get to know the community, and get to know kind of what's behind the craze, because there is a very lengthy paper documentation that details all the different aspects of XMEX, which is, we'll get into it. What is XMEX? What is MEX? I can't get into it now because I'll just get lost in the weeds, but it's something that I've always been really excited about, and I think it's one of the best designed DEX tokens in the entire Web3 space. And if you're watching this, then hopefully you feel that way about EGLD as well, the layer 1 that supports MultiversX from top to bottom. So this team is constantly, and it has always really impressed me, given the architecture was completely original. And they really improved on the idea of Bitcoin's scarcity, as well as the ability for Ethereum to have smart contracts written into the blockchain. And I could get lost again in the details that draws me into MultiversX and EGLD. But again, xDay is less than a week away. So I'm really excited already to share with you. Again, come back after xDay, talk about everything that went down in Romania. I'm just so excited. So again, drop a like and show some love, because these videos, they take a lot of effort, and I'm a one-man team. So if you want to sponsor the show, if you want to get involved somehow, please send me a message too, because again, season 2 is all about bringing guests onto the show. I still have a lineup that I'm slowly getting through of different community members that I would like to pick their brains and give a spotlight. Not just content creators, but other people that are building projects and NFTs. I just want to engage in conversation with you and kind of, in a way, just show people that there are a lot of really bright minds and intellectuals that are kind of gathering around the MultiversX blockchain. So again, today's guest, Tom, we talk about so many different things, and I think it's a 3-hour conversation that I have with him, but the time really just blows by. It's clear that Tom has a lot to share, and he's really great at articulating his thoughts. And even though the objective is for me to just provide a spotlight and be this host that really doesn't get too involved, by nature, obviously I enjoy talking and I'm passionate about these things. So Tom and I get lost in tangents, and especially at the end of the conversation, we begin talking about artificial intelligence and how it can help the blockchain, and then it leads into a conversation about questioning the blockchain and this question of how can a trustless system encourage trust. So just a lot of really cool and interesting topics Tom and I get into in this conversation. The video is here, so keep watching. And let me know what you think in the replies. And if you're on Twitter or X, go ahead and tag some people that you would love to see me interview on the show. So just recapping the episode so far. We've got the MEX to 1 marathon coming up in less than 24 hours. I'm going to be basically just shilling MultiversX through the MEX token. But of course, the focus is, explaining a little bit about what makes MEX so intriguing to me. And like I said already, this is going to bring awareness to MultiversX. It's going to bring awareness to EGLD. And, in turn, it's going to bring awareness to everybody else that's, been building on MultiversX. It's just so much fun to be a part of this community and creating these videos. And especially over the past, year or two during this bear market, there have been just such phenomenal content creators and, content creators that have been, contributing and creating incredible visuals and incredible videos. And bringing it back to your attention on the screen, I talk about it in the video with Tom just a little bit, but this on your screen in front of you, this is the video that Tom made for the hypergrowth campaign that was recent. So this is 12 minutes of just straight technicals. What is MultiversX? You can see how much positive engagement this post got, and Tom even won some money from the team for doing this. So as always, check the links in the description. I'm going to be posting all about Tom's page, what he's doing. He's got a M.V.P that he'll be submitting to the MultiversX Hackathon, which I've been talking about on this channel for a while now, ever since it got announced, with Amazon Web Services as a main partner for that. We've got Google and a few others. So before I dive too deep into what is xDay, just again, want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you for your support. Just reminding you, if you're going to be at xDay, shout out, let me know if you're going to be there. I'm looking forward to engaging with everybody at the hashtag Mexathon happening in just a short period of time here. We're just bringing the energy. We're just going to town. We're excited, and also finally, I have to plug this. Stick around for after the conversation with Tom, because I will be doing a little bit of technical analysis. So if that's something that you want to see, we're going to be diving into looking at Bitcoin versus the US dollar. We're going to be looking at EGLD versus the US dollar. I'll likely begin a short conversation about why I prefer to do technical analysis between altcoins and the Bitcoin pair. So I'm not going to talk about it now. Stay tuned. Check it out after the interview, or rather the conversation I have with Tom, and you'll get all that good technical analysis into your mind so you can hopefully try to make a more educated decision. But I just want to say that some of my fundamental philosophy behind investing in cryptocurrency has really always just been perma-bullish, so that's a bit of my bias, and really just maintaining maximum exposure to the cryptocurrency market. The reason for this is that money is such an important part of our lives, and therefore banks and governments, whenever they control it, there are a lot of different implications. So if you're watching this channel, I hope you understand the importance of ownership of hard assets, and I think that cryptocurrency is going to continue to become more and more mainstream, more popular. People are going to get used to the idea of investing and buying and using cryptocurrencies. And in the event of a mass adoption event, I believe that it will be very challenging to move your fiat currency out of your banks and into cryptocurrency. There's a lot more that I could say about that, but that really just informs my fundamental investment strategy. I've been investing and buying cryptocurrency since 2017, and it's been a ride. Things have happened really fast, and I've experienced a lot of upside, but I've experienced a lot of downside too. But at this point, in case you're curious about my portfolio, I know that this topic is something that Alec and I talked a lot about. We would have a specific segment just discussing, all right, where's your portfolio? What things are you doing? What things are you liking, and why are you doing it? So just kind of a recap and update on my situation is that I've invested a large portion of my capital into the MEX token, and I also invested in quite a few NFTs. I've lost a lot of money along the way, and at this point in the bear market, considering the status of the liquidity and how much money and how much trades are going around, one could say that I got stuck kind of carrying the bag, but my whole mentality is maximum exposure, and I know myself as a trader, and I believe that trading is an extremely dangerous activity, and I'm speaking for myself, and so if you're a good trader, then more power to you. But the main reason that I personally just decided to invest in NFTs and decided to invest in the XMEX token on X Exchange, which is Multiverse's decentralized exchange that they built, automatic market maker, all that good stuff. And part of the reason that I invested in XMEX was because it locked my funds, and this for a lot of people is a very big negative, especially over the past year we had insolvency with FTX fraud and Celsius, and there's just been a lot of insolvency and fraudulent crap that has been taking place over the bear market. So therefore people are much more hesitant to consider locking their tokens. As you might know, you can stake EGLD, and there's a 10-day unbond if you want to get that EGLD out. So XMEX is much more powerful in the sense that if you fully charge, which again, if you're curious about what I'm talking about here, please participate. Please join the community on Twitter or X for the hashtag Mexathon, because again, I'll be there and I'll be happy to talk about this and teach you if you're interested about MEX. But the concept behind it is that there's a battery and you can charge it and you can remove energy or you can add energy. So if your battery is fully charged, your tokens are locked. The liquidity is locked for 4 years. So that is a huge commitment. So I mean, all these different things I'll get into during the Mexathon, because I believe that Mex just has such a huge opportunity of growth, considering its locking mechanism, considering that it's a community-owned token. So yeah, again, I can't get too lost in all of this. I would just encourage you to participate and get involved on X. It's a really great community there. I even started a X community. I don't know what to call it on Twitter, because we've got MultiversX, but then Twitter rebranded to X. So that's another conversation that Tom and I get into, just this idea of how it was interesting that what then Elron's network was able to kind of beat Elon Musk to the whole X concept. So on X, formerly Twitter, there is a community that I made, and I'm going to be checking out different ways to utilize that. All right. So, last major thing, we're just going to dive into the xDay agenda once more. But before that, I wanted to just bring your attention to this graphic that was designed by DB Crypto. So all of this is just scratching the surface of some of these main partners and speakers that will be at xDay this year. We've got Amazon Web Services, Sonia Khan, which is now the VP for Europe, which Circle is the issuer of stablecoins. So that's, some excitement brewing. Not sure what exactly is going to be going on there, but we've got Google Cloud as a main partner. Anthony Pompliano is a huge influencer on X, and again, look at all these names. This is just scratching the surface of some huge names that are going to be attending xDay. So let's just start kind of real quick at the beginning for those of you who might just be completely unaware of what xDay is, what MultiversX is. My hope is that you are new, because if you're new, then that means that MultiversX, the name, is getting out there, and that's just exciting, because I believe that the power of cryptocurrency is to just change the world as we know it, and to empower the people. Bring your money and your time back to where you own it, so you can control it and you can decide what to do. So this is the second conference that MultiversX is putting on. I mentioned last year they took their first xDay to rebrand from Elrond Network to Multiverse, to the power of X. They announced 10 different decentralized applications that the majority of them have been released over the past year, but there have been 3 main products that we are still waiting for. One of them is called X Fabric, which has to do with sovereign shards on the blockchain. Another one is X Worlds, which is going to be the metaverse, and a lot of us are just really excited to hear about what X Worlds is going to be. That last year was a huge topic having to do with Improbable, which is involved with the other side metaverse with Yuga Labs. So a lot is in store for xDay that is kind of just residual from last year, but as I talk with Tom during our conversation later in this episode, I personally think that this is going to be really focused on the community, and on your screen in front of you, again, you can see sponsors and partners, Google Cloud, KuCoin, and all of these. I can't go through them all, because it's there's just too many. But yeah, so what is xDay? It's basically, as it says here, a 3-day conference on blockchain, metaverse, AI, fintech, all that good stuff. So if you're into crypto, Web3, digital assets, this is going to be a really exciting conference for you to watch, either attend or it'll be streamed online for you to check out. So as I mentioned, it's going to be in Bucharest, Romania, the Palace of Parliament, and who's to say if there will be any huge announcements? My expectations are kind of low. I feel much better going into this year versus last year. There was so much mystery around last year, but this year I think it's just going to be really streamlined, really sleek, really exciting. And as you can see here, there's going to be 2 stages: the main stage, the innovation stage, as well as we're aware of there is a hackathon going on, which has just I think $1 million in prizes. Like I said, said, lots to be excited about, and I just can't wait to get back to this channel after xDay, share about all the things that have been announced, share about my experience, and yeah, thank you all for the support on these videos, and thanks for subscribing. It really means a lot to me, and I'm excited to keep on putting videos out covering these news and topics of this ecosystem. All right, everybody, we've got just one last thing to get into before I share the conversation that I had with our guest today, Tom Rees, and that is the first sponsored segment of the podcast. So we are going to be checking out Checker Chain, which is a trustless review/review-to-earn platform built on the MultiversX blockchain. So on your screen in front of you, you can see the Twitter account and start to learn a little bit more about what it is. As I said, a review-to-earn platform built on trustless review consensus mechanism. So we will be going through a few things today. Just first look impressions of the website, creating a new profile. We're going to explore the website, and I'm just going to be sharing my honest feedback. One of the team members reached out to me in the DMs and just wanted me to be honest and to go through a few different things. So first things first, we're going to head over to the website and just kind of check it out. What are the first impressions here? And I've already checked out the website a little bit, so I've got an idea of what we're looking at here. So first and foremost, you can see the recent reviews. And the thing that I needed to figure out first was really kind of how to write a review, and rather what you can decide to write a review on. And there's only a few different things that you can write a review on. We're going to be writing a review for MetaMask here in a little bit. But nonetheless, you can see here that the platform is really sleek, really nice, and lots of people are kind of getting involved and writing reviews in order to earn this checker chain. You can see this person here has a profile picture from X Portal app, so it's good to see that the MultiversX community is here. And what we're going to do next is I'm just going to go ahead and hit connect wallet in the upper corner. And many of you are probably familiar with this process, the X Portal application on our telephone, on our cell phone. So I'm just going to scan that QR code right now, hit approve, and in just a short moment, I will be able to log into my profile. So as you can see, I can now write feedback. I can write a review. And I'm just going to kind of take care of that now, just so you can kind of see the process of kind of what it looks like to write a review on this website. So just to kind of plug X Portal, figured I would write a review on MetaMask. You can see here that it's got a majority of about 4.5 stars. So what is my feedback? I'm just going to say X Portal is better, because it is. And even though, don't get me wrong, MetaMask is a nice application to get done when you need to get done. But to me, the opportunity for MetaMask, or rather the reason that X Portal is better, is because you can be sure that all of your assets are protected, because everything on MultiversX is on the protocol level. All assets are stored on the protocol level. So the risk of signing an improper transaction, having a wallet drained, is not existent on MultiversX. So I'm going to go ahead and type that. Just something real quick here. I don't want my wallet drained. We're in the middle of a review here, or rather a video, so I don't want to get too carried away typing away. I don't want my wallet drained. Ethereum is no good. EGLD is better, and MEX is the best. Hashtag MEX to 1. So it's gonna hit submit. I guess I have to do stars. 3 stars is fair. 3 stars. There we go. Submit feedback. Oh, so I got to confirm it on my wallet. And as I do this, it's saying that it did not confirm the connection. So you get the idea. We're just gonna keep on plugging through here. As soon as I hit submit feedback, it was supposed to send a notification over to my phone, and it did not work. I'm just, this is my honest review. I got to give it to you straight. Anyway, we're going to keep on plugging through here because I wanted to show you the sign up process. So as soon as you log into the website, you're going to log in with X Portal or the DeFi wallet or other methods that you prefer, as I kind of did earlier. And just one by one, you can see here, you just insert a name, your username, a good email address, a bio, and profile photo. What describes you best, and checker chain. So here's what I want to dive into a little bit here. You have 4 main categories of individuals on checker chain protocol. So I'm now looking at the white paper over here, and we're just going to kind of start back at the top. Because I think it's important to get a good idea as to really what this is trying to what problem this is trying to solve in the first place. They write that existing online review platforms are not able to solve the problem of manipulated and fake reviews. So they introduced a decentralized and trustless review protocol built on MultiversX, where opinion checking is incentivized for meeting consensus. So checker chain is a decentralized review aggregator platform to check products for their validity and authentic feedback. So this is a huge opportunity here to really make an impact on the reviews online. So something that I would like to see kind of built out a little bit more here. As you saw over here, there were only so many different things that you could write a review for. Lots of people are writing reviews on MetaMask and Solana, and there's much more you can write reviews on here, like Bitcoin. So I guess my curiosity straight out of the gate simply has to do with this is all that you can write reviews on. So somehow this definitely needs to be integrated into a more seamless interaction with regular websites like Amazon. So maybe some sort of Chrome extension would be really convenient to build checker chain into regular websites. That's something that I know that I would really like to see. So it's important to know that you get rewards based off of your reviews. So let's go ahead and click in the upper corner and click on the reviews, or rather the rewards section. And so this is something that is to me has a pretty good design here. Obviously my account, I just started it, so I don't have much to really see in front of us, considering I haven't written any reviews. But a 100% verified profile will receive random review tasks, but not all new profiles are immediately assigned tasks. So it looks like there is some regularity behind how often you're going to be writing reviews and how often that's kind of expected of you. Altogether, I think that this is a fun and good idea. But again, there's some opportunity for this to expand into lots of different areas of the internet, considering all the different Web2 companies and so forth that could probably utilize something like this. So we're going to head back over to the white paper, and I'm going to highlight the types of checkers, as it says. So posters, pretty straightforward here. Posters are checkers who submit products in the review portal. Reviewers are checkers who review products submitted in the review portal. Influencers are special background checkers. Sorry, are special checkers assigned by checker chain for engagement growth. And then lastly, makers are checkers who have ownership of products that are posted in the review platform. So there's a lot more we could get into on the white paper, for sure. Tokenomics of the checker token and all that stuff. Everybody loves tokenomics and so forth. So yeah, I mean, in my opinion, the website looks nice. The opportunity is really big to expand this out, as I've already mentioned. But nonetheless, I want to thank Checker Chain for reaching out and having me review their website and their protocol on the MVX podcast. So I'll probably add a little bit more. I'll probably make a tweet about this just to supplement what I've discussed here. But that's all I'm going to share with you about the Checker Chain for this episode. But if you know more about Checker Chain, if you're involved, if you've been writing reviews, drop a comment, let us know that it's something that you use. That has been today's sponsored segment from Checker Chain. Go ahead and check them out and start utilizing it to earn some tokens and start contributing to this way to provide reviews in a consensus manner. And excited to continue to see them create opportunities to be built out even further. So with that being said, it is time to go ahead and get into the segment with Tom Rees, today's guest. So drop a like on this video. Make sure to subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And I can't wait to share this conversation that I had with Tom. So I hope you enjoy it. And don't forget to stick around after the conversation. We're going to dive into a technical analysis of Bitcoin as well as EGLD. So like I said, stick around till the end. It's a great conversation. Check the description for the different chapters, the different questions and topics that Tom and I get into. I've said enough. I'm going to let it go and enjoy the conversation. Oh, what? Oh,
Let's go.
Tom in the house. Let's go, dude.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Ah, busy as always, but you know what? We're doing really good here. How are you,
Dude.
man?
Oh man, I'm great. I'm super excited about our conversation, to be honest. Been looking forward to this for a while. And for the viewers out there, welcome to the Multiverse Experience podcast. We have the pleasure of speaking with Brad Reese. Tom is the guy's name, looking right at you there, at Tomo Reese 2 on X, formerly Twitter. But we have the pleasure of speaking and picking his brain today. I've got several questions lined up for you, Tom, and we also have a special that we're going to be putting out where Tom and I watch our interview that I did at xDay last year, and we're going to watch that
Oh,
live and kind of respond on that. So stay tuned, hit the subscribe button, follow Tom on Twitter or X, as I'm still brain broken. But anyway, Rad Reese Tom, his Twitter profile says he's a fanatic in innovation and business creation, crypto and stocks economist to the core. So we'll talk a little bit more as well about your live Twitter Spaces account at xSpaces. All this will be dropped in the description below. But I've said a little bit too much already. Tom, how are you doing today? I know you said you've been busy. What's at top of your mind right now? And we'll get into more of the conversation.
yeah, thank you. Thank you. That was a great introduction. I always cringe a little bit when I hear the like header of like Twitter profile things. It's like, what do you write in those things? But
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it was kind of accurate with what I am. You know, I really am an economist to the core. I'm a bit too bit too economistic sometimes,
Let's
which
go, dude.
right behind your profile name as well, of course, the economistic. And
Dude,
for everyone that doesn't know, me and Stephen, I just wanted to say as well, me and Stephen, we first met in xDay last year, had a great time, and so that special later on with us watching the reactions. First time I've watched that video, and that was actually Stephen interviewing me on the reactions live from xDay. So that'd be really cool.
Oh yeah, and it was extremely spontaneous when we watch it together. Everybody will see it, including ourselves. But I was in the middle of just reporting on X Day. I had just set up my camera in front of the palace in Paris, and I was giving an introduction, and I saw you out there, and I was like, Tom, and it just like happened. So I watched a little bit of it just to make sure the video and audio was working. Just I captured everything, and I watched just a little bit of it. But there's a lot that I haven't seen since I was looking at you right in the eyes, Tom. So I'm stoked to watch that together. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's going to be great. And for anyone that doesn't know, like I could give a little bit of an introduction because I
Yes,
realize I am
please.
actually quite a dark horse in the space. People may see me on xSpaces with the podcast, but a lot of people actually don't associate me with that. They see more DB because DB's a big influencer, and he was actually very great with joining me with that whole thing. He loved what we were doing, and he wanted to come on board, and we're basically co-founders together of that space. And he's been doing an incredible job with getting some of the biggest guests on recently, as I'm sure many people have heard. So yeah, that's been great. But a bit like in my introduction, I'd go just briefly into the background of my investing and stuff like this. I started investing when I was very young, probably about 16, but I was using a fake account then. And I mostly did traded back then. I did trading of gold, oil, commodities, forex, all that kind of stuff. And I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed kind of trying to get an edge on the market and trying to almost like outsmart the market in some ways. It was obviously very difficult, and I learned a lot of things not to do by losing my account many times, but with fake money. I then went into actual investing when I could, and I invested in stocks. I then also invested in crypto first in 2017 with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Bitcoin, I think, was $6,000 then, and Ethereum was about $100.
Mm.
So that was really good. And I kind of just left them because I kind of did think it was a little bit of scams. I didn't really look too much into it. And I kind of left it for a couple of years. I came back in 2019, started investing again. And I looked at my crypto investments 2019 to 2020, especially. Obviously, my stocks were doing very well in 2020 after the crash. I invested in Tesla, Square, and a lot of these other ones, which went up like crazy. In fact, I actually sold out my Tesla after like a 4x, even though after I sold out, it went another like 4x, which was kind of
Mm.
a shame. But I felt like it was good enough. And then I put that money into crypto. I bought Cardano. I bought a lot of these smaller ones. I forgot to mention, I bought MultiversX, ERD, it was at the time.
Mm.
I bought that at Elron Coin. I bought that 2018 during the Binance launch.
Mm.
But I put a very small amount in. I put like $100, $200 or something like that because when I was looking at the video, and I very much at that time, I kind of thought like a lot of these things are just scams, and you
Mm.
don't really know what you're doing. And I saw Benny's speech, and I just liked the way he was talking. I loved his philosophy. I loved his vision for the future of crypto because I was really getting into crypto then, and I started to see the benefits and what it could do for the future of the world. And I just decided I'd put it in. And, in my mindset, I just said to myself, I'm okay with if that's a scam. Like, I'm fine to lose that money. I was okay.
Yeah.
Luckily, it wasn't, and it did really well. And yeah, from there, I've just been in crypto. I've been learning a lot, researching since 2020, 2019, really. More and more, I've been working in crypto at times. I was in Dubai last year, where I was basically a consultant for a forex trading company that was trying to create a centralized exchange. And that was interesting. In Dubai as well, it was very interesting for a while there. I then uh, had an idea, which I was really thinking of, and I thought I would come back and try and start that company. And actually, when I came back from Dubai, was just before xDay, and that was when we first came to the MultiversX things. But in terms of like just a little bit of background on MultiversX, I've done threads every now and then. I'm very much an off again, on again content creator in the
Mm.
space. I've done a few nice threads, but I need to do some more when I get some time. And MultiversX, I just really grew to love it. I love the technology behind it first, and then I love the community once I really got into the NFTs.
All right, I'm going
Yeah,
to
and
interrupt here and ask a quick rundown of your current portfolio and percentages. and you can share more specific how much is in Multiverse X, but I want to talk about your portfolio just a little bit more whenever we get into Multiverse X more specifically. But for the time being, what's your general portfolio allocation between your everything that you just mentioned and kind of that collage of investments?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's changed a lot, I must say. I would say I probably have about 40% in stocks at the moment, of which, so I'm quite a risky investor. I'm quite young and, I've done well with risky assets in the past. So I very much invest in quite risky things. I do have a little bit in a couple of index funds, but the most of the stocks, I would say 80% at least, is into more high growth stocks. A bit of Tesla, but then also some of the smaller stocks as well, smaller caps. And then the rest of it, 60% in crypto right now. I'd probably actually increase that because crypto has really been going down whilst the stocks have been doing quite well. But the 60% in crypto, I have a little bit in Bitcoin. I used to have a lot more in Bitcoin, a little bit in Bitcoin, a little bit in Ethereum. I used to have a lot more in both of them. And actually, I think we'll go into a bit of the market analysis later on or something, but I would recommend Bitcoin as one of the best right now. And then actually, I would say I've probably got 70% EGLD right now. So very heavily invested in that. So take anything I say with the pinch of bias of being invested in the ecosystem for sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for sharing that. And you touched on the main reason that I asked is because I find it pretty hard to avoid biases, and it doesn't help to disclose them from the trader's perspective. But I do believe that it does help to disclose where we have vested interests. And that's speaks to part of my own philosophy when it comes to um, both investing, but also speaking to a public audience. But that's really exciting to hear about your allocation, not only in crypto, but also the fact that you mentioned you still have 40% or so in stocks. So, and the fact that you were able to kind of like, dollar cost average from the better performing stocks is solid. And I definitely agree with you as well from the standpoint that Bitcoin will maintain a high market cap in relation to the whole dominance for a long period of time. But it's one of those stipulations for me where it's like that's what I think, but I might be actually super wrong. And that speaks to my philosophies and ideas and interests in Multiverse X's as well, given that a large portion of my own portfolio right now, nearing 80%, is invested in Multiverse X in one way or another. I have friends, I have family who are invested in it as well. And at this point, I agree with you, and we could talk about it much, much more, I'm sure. The idea of, what's a good balance and or strategy. Perhaps we can have another episode where we get much deeper into our ideas. Thanks for that intro of yourself as well. Lots of things that I'd like to dig into. And we have all the time in the world, but we do run out of energy. So at this point, I want to give you and the audience a chance to hear more about xSpaces. I have just a lot of questions for myself to hear about and for the viewers to learn about your experience with that. Some maybe top of mind conversations that you have had. And I think one way or another, we will get a long list of questions answered. So I just want to open it up to personally what I feel like is a great segue for you to talk about the hackathon, which you're working on right now. And like I said, I want to put you on a platform. So, but first off, I'm just want to give a shout out to xSpaces once again. Link is going to be in the description below to just follow them. I just, every time I join, I enjoy the content that you're putting out, whether it's by yourself and it's kind of a slow space, or as you already mentioned, the recent guests that you've had on xSpaces that are huge names. And just before we press record for this episode, you started telling me about a few things that you got from those spaces. So I trust that you'll be able to take and run with that.
I know, yeah, I really appreciate that. And I just wanted to just really quickly reiterate with the biases things,
Sure,
we
sure.
all have our bias. We're all investing in things and we all care about things in a certain way. I think it's just being honest about the biases, and also by being honest, you have that own perspective that actually you are biased in some way, and you need to try and find that middle ground where actually you bring yourself back to reality. So I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
that's just something I wanted to add to that. And then I really appreciate what you said about xSpaces. So, for anyone that doesn't know, xSpaces is a Twitter Space series, which I started back in March or April, I think. I actually can't remember which. It was around that time this year, 2023. And I would say like the reason for it was, back in xDay last year, I was really thinking about, all these amazing builders that are going on in xDay and MultiversX in general, the ecosystem that we have as a large, and the fact that, no one even knows MultiversX. No one knew Elrond before. No one really knows MultiverseX now. And I really thought, why do we have such a great community and we can't really show it to people, or people don't even know about it? And I
Mm.
thought, well, one of the things is obviously content, and a lot of Twitter X, also known as, a lot of that is kind of just echo chambers.
Absolutely.
You're putting content out there, and you're just followed by the same people that care about the same things you do, and they're retweeting it to the same people that care about the same things that they do. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of that echo chamber nature where you're really pushing the same content. I mean, I've been part of that as well. I've done threads, obviously on MultiverseX, and no one
Yes.
outside of MultiverseX reads those threads
I'm
or
going to
anything like
interrupt
this.
as well because this is something else that I want to direct the entire audience to. Because Tom, you made it's currently pinned on your profile on Twitter, but you clearly spent a great deal of time, effort, energy, attention on a video that you made for one of Multiverse X's recent hypergrowth campaigns. 11 minutes, 57 minutes of straight technicals and fundamentals to the dome, if you know what I'm saying. So I'm going to drop a personal link to that in the description as well. But man, I mean, what an awesome video and contribution that was. And, I don't know. I, I think sometimes seeing these videos in that format is so illustrative. Some people are good at hearing things and learning. Other people really need that visual experience. And everyone can hear your voice as we speak now. You got a great speaking voice. And you and DB, the co-host of yours on xSpaces, each of you brings such a high caliber of intellect to every conversation, and it's absurdly clear why you are getting the speakers and guests and the attention that you are. So yeah, shout out once again to xSpaces. Shout out to the video that you made for Hypergrowth X. Check it out if you want to learn about Multiverse X. But throwing it back over to you.
Yeah, thanks. I really appreciate that, man, because that was that was a long night creating that video to really do it. And actually, funny thing with that was I actually created it as a Twitter thread because that's what I'm used to, or
Yeah.
X thread, whatever you want to call it. And in the chat for like a lot of the content creators in the Multiverse X space, um, I basically released the thread, and then they just went, this is a great video. Why have you not put it? Have you put it on YouTube? And I said no. And then they were like, why haven't you put this on YouTube? And I'm
Yeah.
like, I didn't think about it, to be honest. So I was like, I was getting a flight that day. So I was in the airport just trying to scrounge around for internet access just so that I could submit it. And I
Wow.
managed to submit it like half an hour before the deadline
Oh,
for the
that's
YouTube.
awesome.
And it won the YouTube award as well.
Right. I was
So
just
it
gonna applaud you on
was
that
really
as
worth
well.
it. But yeah, that was really good. And I love doing that kind of stuff. To be honest, if I had more time, I would do a lot more of them because
Dude,
I did really enjoy that.
yeah, so there's two thoughts that come to mind as you say that, because you have the capability, as I believe we all do, to find ways to self sustain ourselves financially speaking. But like, you're, to me, you aren't the type of person that is ever really going to stop, which speaks to more personal questions of like what your plans are, if you see a future of lying back, retiring, and kicking back and being easy. But as we've heard about hints already, and obviously keep watching because we're going to get more into everything that Tom you're into, because we're several minutes in and we've only glanced on the surface of who you are as an individual and everything that you're doing.
No, yeah. I think also it's good to point out just here to any audience or anyone listening to this, me and Stephen, we go on tangents all the time, and putting us both in a interview together is probably not the best idea
Who
for the
did this?
audience.
Who's the executive producer here?
Bringing it back a little bit.
Yes, sir.
Just a little bit of context. When Stephen's saying like what I'm doing right now, and I'll just say this briefly, and then I'll go into xSpaces. What I'm doing right now, just to say it very briefly, is obviously xSpaces, which was started earlier on in this year, where we're interviewing a lot of people, and I'll go into that in a little bit. I'm also starting a company right now, so actually a company that will be building on the blockchain, and actually I am trying to put out a submission for the hackathon right now for that, but we can go into that in a little bit as well. And then the third thing is charity work. So I do a lot of charity work for the past 16 years of my life, so most of my life really. And I'm very heavily involved in that. I've been part of many projects, and I've actually been out to Uganda with this charity that I spend most of my time with. And I've been out 5 times this year for a total of 3 months over the last 12 months. So it's quite a lot of time I'm spending. And actually, I'm doing quite a few of the Twitter spaces in the past this year from Uganda, which who's listening to all those spaces knows because I sometimes mention it. But yeah, bring it back to xSpaces real quick. One of the main reasons that I really thought about starting that was because of that echo chamber nature. And I realized Twitter spaces kind of break it a little bit, in the sense that when you're on your X platform, you've got obviously people that you follow and all these people, and they go around all the time. But what Twitter Spaces really does, or X Spaces, whatever you want to call it now,
sure.
You can see on the top of your screen people that not necessarily like you would actually see the tweets of or anything like this.
Absolutely.
These are people that are talking about, interesting topics that you may be interested in. And it may even just be because you like crypto. So a crypto Twitter space comes up and all this kind of stuff. And I also saw that kind of broke the chamber a little bit. And I also saw that MultiversX didn't really have many of these spaces on. We have NFT space, which they always do a great job with NFT projects. Not so much general though, general projects or just talking about general things in the ecosystem and so on. And I just really thought, I love this space so much. I love innovation. I love technology, which is one of the reasons why it's in my profile. And I just thought, I'm constantly keeping up to date. Why don't I start this thing? And it's difficult to start something, when you're on your own, especially. So actually what I did was, I've really got together with a lot of influential people and like really cool people in the MultiversX space, like Stephen, for example, and Education, and all of these kind of people. And I got to know DB a little bit during the EOPS thing, and I basically just put out a message to every one of these people, and Stephen can say to that. And I basically said, would you like to join me in this new Twitter space thing that I'd like to do? And a lot of people, understandably, they're very busy. They can't really have time, but they turn up when they can. And that's all you can really expect. And that's really great. And our first space actually was after one of Benny's town halls. And I think we got 850 listens, which was massive. Wow. Especially for a first space. Crazy. And Stephen, you were a big part of that one, actually. So
I think I remember that for sure. Anyway. There was a lot of energy there. That was great.
Oh yeah, really good. And that was kind of like me bringing, because like I had a whole structure to the whole thing, and that was me really bringing my structure and my platform to Twitter Spaces and just trying to get quality out there, not just random people talking that don't really know what they're talking about, and there's 10 minutes of silence while someone hits up a bong or something like this, like a lot of the degen spaces that were going on at that time. And I just really wanted to bring really good quality, and also have it so that people can listen and they're like, what, this is really cool, I'll keep listening. and we'll see where it goes. And that's kind of why I also brought out the timestamps. So I put the timestamps in the comments for most of these spaces, so that people, because me myself, I'm busy, I can't really listen to 3 hours or even an hour sometimes. So it's nice to have timestamps to see like what you actually care about and what's interesting to you, and
I'm
then you can
curious,
skip to that.
when you take the notes on the timestamps, is that something that you're doing as the conversation progresses? And if so, when do you decide as a host when a certain topic has come to an end and a new type of conversation has emerged?
It's a good question. Actually, it's quite a difficult one. So when I'm interviewing people, it's really great when I have co-hosts and stuff like this, because it gives me a little bit more of time. So I think just bringing it a little bit more broad, just for a second.
Sure.
I won't try not go on a tangent or anything, but bring it a little bit broad. When you're doing these things, they're obviously live. You've got your own notes based on like your research and who the project is, who the people are. Then you've got your own questions. And then you've also got the comment section live then. So you've got the people that are listening that are putting in comments. You've got the other people in the space that are monitoring it, and maybe they're like the marketing of that project, and they want to give you notes as you go along and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot of these different things that you're really managing. And then at the same time, you're having to manage the conversation so that it flows smoothly and so that it's actually an enjoyable listen to from people. And also, you have to follow up on questions. If you're just doing broad questions all the time, no one's going to feel like that was a good interview. You need to really follow up and, push in, get into the details, and also push them back on points that you think actually they're kind of glossing over, or there's risks that people need to know about, and all these kind of things. So it's quite a lot to do. And then on top of that, I'm trying to do the timestamp. So a lot of the time when I get a spare second in the interview and I feel like there's a question coming up, I might actually put in like question, just a very brief note of the question, like say we're going into sharding or something like that. I put sharding, and then I put the minute, and then I kind of ask the question about sharding for that minute, and then we kind of just go off like that. And I normally, if I've missed things, I'd listen back and I just skip over it to iron out misses and stuff like that.
That's great to hear. So, as we're still on the topic of xSpaces, what, I guess, what would you I'll just make a more generic question. What has been your most exciting, because you already mentioned one of the first spaces after a town hall, there was a lot of excitement, but now that you've had, I don't know if you're keeping track what number you're at, but thus far, what has been your favorite space, and of course, why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And just real quick, because I didn't really get to it in the end of that xSpaces.
Sure.
As we were doing well, I was pushing out content first, and I had good co-hosts as well that gave me their time very nicely. And DB kind of just reached out to me, Dave, as people know, and he said, "Hey, listen, I love what you're doing here. I love the quality. I'd love to have more of a role in the space." And I said, yeah, that's amazing, because it is difficult to do these things on your own, especially when you're doing other things. So he came in from his own asking, and he's been amazing. We've had a great time since, and I think we've really been pushing that quality. And then in terms of like my favorite and all that kind of stuff, for the numbers, we've actually done really amazing recently. So we had a space set up by DV, actually, all credit to him for this, really. He set up a space on a technical for blockchain, and we were going into the scalability architecture for both Radix, which is like a newer blockchain, and they're kind of just starting their mainnet now, and MultiversX. So we had the core developer of Robert Sasu on from MultiversX, and then we had the founder of Radix, Dan Hughes, on from Radix, obviously.
Yeah.
And that one got 4,800 listens. So that's like massive, especially for like us. And actually, especially for that space, I was very impressed that many people wanted to listen to technicals, because we we went into the technicals, and me and DB, anyone that reads our threads and stuff like this, we love going into technicals. So I was very impressed that so many people listened to that.
And that
We also had a great.
speaks to
Sorry.
the level of attention that we have right now. We're, just the classic conversation, a bull market versus a bear market. And we talked about before we pressed record here that because of the bear market, you and DB have been able to hold guests and conversations with some people that likely you maybe wouldn't have been able to reach to through all the noise of a bull market. And the main point of accumulation is a mindset that impacts you on a deeper level. Accumulation is a state of mind. Accumulation is a mindset of focusing on what's really important. And it's easy to get caught up in this feeling of life's moving too fast and I miss my opportunity to kind of, build something. And this reminds me of a Netflix special about Juul, the vapor nicotine pen. And it's such an interesting watch because it talks about the whole progression from the very first idea, and it's a timeline, first prototypes, and I'm in the process of watching it. But I couldn't believe how long ago the concept of Juul began. And it's just like, even that, highly successful nicotine pen, that it's all about a business cycle of a trend, just reminding ourselves the importance of a bear market, because whenever there's too much going on, it's hard to break through the noise. Because as you mentioned, like, it's tough to do the spaces, and the spaces require a level of intellect. So I'm just really stoked that the community is really genuinely like taking initiative and pulling numbers, as you mentioned, about 4.5 thousand listens. Like, that's just like what it's all about. And it's just great to see that not only just random people, but I haven't met DB, but Tom, obviously I know you. So again, man, it's just hats off. And just a continued message to the listeners that there are some highly intellectual individuals that are paying very close attention to what's happening on MultiversX, previously Elron's network. And the numbers and the I would say the relative attention, but more specifically the eyes that are being captured at this moment of the bear market. In my opinion, there's a great deal of degenerative interest on the layer 2 and Ethereum side of things, and there's still a lot of eyes, liquidity, and attention there. And that's such a distraction, in my opinion, because the eyes that are on MultiversX are highly intellectual people that are processing and building at a level that, as we sit here October 11th, if I'm right, 2023, we are on just the breaking edge, not so much even more the bleeding edge. I would say we are on the breaking edge of and as long as the world can keep its form, man, just political unrest in the midst of. But the technology that's being used and built on, there's so much attention going on around it. And I'm contributing in this way, engaging in conversation, bringing on people like Tom and other guests in the past who I'm blown away by the knowledge that they have, and they deserve to, not in this very space, know everything that Tom or any other guest knows. But as I've said a million times already, like, follow these people and start engaging with them, because they have their fingers on the pulse. And not only that, they have their fingers on, other people's pulse, bringing in core developers from MultiversX, such as Robert Sasu, and many more are certain to come. But you were talking about Radix, and I know that was what you said was your top space. So keep on talking about that conversation if you like, or talk about some other spaces that for you were really impactful. I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I was gonna. So the Radix, obviously, we got the most listeners in that one, and it's actually pinned on the xSpaces account. So I'd imagine as time goes on, we'll still get a few from that. But
Yep.
one
After
of the
this
big things for
video
Radix,
too, run it up, folks.
exactly, the timestamps are there, so just skip along to whatever you care about. And with Radix, especially, I think is interesting because that's a massive number. I never expected to get anything like that until a bull run comes back, basically.
Mm.
And one of the interesting things to that is I genuinely think about 3,000 of those almost 5,000 views, I think probably about 3,000 were actually people from the Radix community.
Yeah.
And the Radix community is actually quite a small new community. So it's actually a lot of developers that have come from other blockchains and cryptos. So when you look into that, you've got a big number of people that are hearing maybe MultiversX for the first time and like, wow, that's an interesting conversation. Actually, I really like the architecture that they've done there. Maybe I should have a look at that. And people still have their biases. They still love the echo chamber, and if you love Radix, you love Radix. You'll stay with Radix. But I think it's at least good that people can actually hear the other side, and also with a great argument, a great conversation, because it was a good debate. But I would say with those kind of ones as well, it's kind of big stakes. You've got a lot of people listening in live, which also means you've got a lot of comments coming in. So I'm always trying to keep up to date with all the comments and everything during the space. And so it's a lot of pressure. And a lot of the time when you're going through those kind of spaces, you're like in such a, I don't know, microcosm kind of thing, like a focus where every single millisecond is like counting, and you're like, oh, that was an awkward silence there. And actually, when you listen back, you're like, actually, that wasn't even an awkward silence. And it's more interesting sometimes when you listen back and you realize, oh, that was quite good, actually. I like that question there. I like that question there. I missed that kind of thing, because I'm looking at my notes and all this kind of stuff. But some of the conversations that actually I really love, and some of my favorite spaces, are the ones where we really get into the detail and we really get the best out of founders in projects. So like one-on-one interviews kind of things, or obviously me with DB. We really go into some. I really love the Zaya AI space. I thought that was a great one. We've had quite a few with some founders, and I love those kind of spaces because you really go into it. And when you have a founder there talking about their project, and you show that you've actually researched, you actually care about it, and that you want to see what happens next kind of thing, they really get passionate. And that kind of excites me as well, because I love hearing people that are on the cutting edge, really talk passionately about why they believe what they believe and all this stuff. And the last thing I was just going to say on this question is some of my absolute favorite spaces are the very general ones we do, where it's like talking about AI, or it's also talking about like the economy, talking about superpowers. And, you really get some interesting ones there. And I think that those are the kind of the spaces where almost anyone can join in, because a lot of people have varied aspects. Whereas if it's like a project, a lot of people don't know enough. Or if it's like architecture of blockchain development or something like this, a lot of people don't know enough, or they're too shy to get things wrong and stuff like that.
Yeah. So in terms of the audience participation, how do you navigate it when an audience member or even a speaker is behaving out of line or carrying on in a conversation too much without it engaging in a wrong way, especially in the heat of a debate?
That's a really difficult one, I must say. And to be honest, I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect. I'm very far from perfect. I need to improve that myself. But I would say you definitely have to, like, for example, with that Radix and MultiversX space, there got quite a heated debate at one point over basically atomic composability, which, just to explain it very quickly, is basically when all transactions on a chain happen instantaneously throughout the whole chain, basically. So, a lot of shards, like MultiversX, a transaction happens, and, it takes time until the other shards know that transaction has happened, kind of thing. Whereas atomic composability, it happens straight away. And actually, MultiversX are really working on that. So they're really improving a lot. So actually, when the Radix founder, said, what about MultiversX with atomic composability? You guys don't have that kind of thing. Robert Sassu kind of just went, no, we have it. We're working on it. We've got it right now, kind of thing. And it's like the nuance between the technicality of it and like the user experience of it.
Yeah.
And debate got quite heated at some points for like a good 15 minutes or 20 minutes of the space.
Mm.
And I actually had some people messaging me basically saying you need to break these guys up and all this kind of stuff. But
Dude,
I
that's
was
funny.
at the moment I was like, actually, I'm really interested in what they're saying. Like I
Yeah.
really like it. And if it got to like insulting or petty stuff or something like that, then 100% I would have broken it up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and there's ways to do that. Obviously, you can just mute them because you're the host, or you could just butt in and kind of just try and level it out a little bit. And
Right.
sometimes we do have to, if it's like, especially an audience member who may be from another community, or maybe they've got terrible background noise or something like this. If they're kind of ruining the experience for the rest of the audience, you do kind of just have to take control sometimes and mute them, or just say like, and try and do it like quite apologetically, say like, I'm sorry, but we can't really hear what you're saying, the background noise is too much and stuff like this, and you kind of just move on instead
Yeah.
of that. But it's a
That,
difficult one for sure.
That's some really great advice. And the reason I ask is for anybody out there that has any curiosity or interest on how to get going in something like this, or maybe you don't want to start something, or you at least want to participate in some of these conversations. My hope is that people watching this conversation between you and me, Tom, will hope to streamline some of your mentalities that give them that confidence to speak up, or start doing their own thing. So thank you very much for talking about those insights and experiences. Kind of feel free to jump back, but I would love to start
I would
directing.
just add,
Yes, sir.
sorry, I would add one thing. I know, I sorry to interrupt you
Oh,
there.
good.
I just want to say, if we're talking like, what I think is like the most difficult thing with these kind of spaces and stuff like this, and actually with what you're doing and all these things, I think consistency is definitely the most difficult thing.
Yeah.
And part of that consistency is also because when you're doing what you do, obviously, and then most of the time what xSpaces we do, you have to arrange guests to come on. And that can be very difficult just to get their attention to begin with, and then to get them interested, and then also to arrange a time and day. Because,
Yeah.
you know,
A lot of
when you're doing
logistics.
consistent, exactly, when you're doing consistency, with these spaces, especially with Twitter Spaces, I find, because sometimes the notifications are pretty crap with telling people that they're going on and stuff. You kind of have to do it the same time, the same day, like each week.
Yeah.
And we did it for a while for 3 days a week, and then it was too much. So we went down to 2 days, Tuesdays and Fridays. And when you're trying to really schedule people in, you kind of have to try and push them to those days and times, and that can be
Yeah. Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
And sometimes like people just go, "Oh, I'm sorry, I can't do it anymore," and then you're like, last minute,
Yeah.
like maybe the night before, or maybe it's even 2 hours before, you're like, we're gonna have to come up with something else, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that, I would say, is the most difficult part. And that's the way to get around that definitely is being organized, being also just being, I don't know what it's not brutal, but it's kind of like solid, with the way you say these things. We need to do it, and if you want to come on and stuff like this, then we need to be doing it that time, we need to be doing it that day.
Yeah.
Please let us know when you're available, kind of thing. And you know it
Yeah.
is a lot
And
of
you're dealing with
adapting.
people who are their time zones are across the globe. So
Oh yeah,
that's absolutely
exactly.
something to work around. And with the podcast, it's always been something to work out. I have my own stories on some, it's like in between a late night and an early morning, but you've got somebody to be on the show, and it's like at that point you just got to make it happen. And there has to be, as you're describing, a mutual interest. Of course, we ideally
Yes.
want both people involved in the conversation, the direction of the conversation, and the energy that will be shared. So yeah, it's fun to see the growth of xSpaces. And speaking to that consistency aspect, dependability, consistency are in the same category of words. And viewing it through that context, the fact that you're building an audience that they are depending on you, and that's something that is going to bring numbers and an increased amount of interest. So we all grow, and we all have our missions and visions that are really important to define as people who are content creators generically speaking in this space, but my personal belief is that the potential of us, I would call us, Tom and I referring to, and anyone else out there, but people who are contributing some sort of content or positive contribution or thought to the movement is something that at this point in the market cycle is something that leads you to finding people like Tom and connecting with them.
One thing I actually just wanted to add real quick is another reason why I love, xSpaces, is they're so accessible, they're so open. Like, you see these big ones from Mario and they'll fall. You can, if you get lucky, especially in the early days, maybe not so much now, although DB's been on a couple of his spaces. You can get lucky and you can go up there and you're meeting massive people, and actually from there you can go into DMs and you can actually really network. And actually, as you were saying earlier, the bear market, this is the time to make network. If you want to meet people, you want to talk to people, this is the time, because this is when they don't have 100 people a day saying, oh, I have a great idea, why don't you help me with this, or why don't you invest in me, and all this kind of stuff. This is definitely the time to be doing that. And I love that on xSpaces, we could have a guest come up like out of nowhere, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, that guy was great, we should bring him back for another thing, or when we want to talk about this topic and all this kind of stuff.
Right,
and it's more engaging as well, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I know that I can kind of depend on xSpaces to always be running shows. And yeah, that's, I mean, thanks. I'll say it again, but thanks for being a guest on the show, because as we know, this is something that I'm doing by myself. And you did mention the difficulties of doing things by yourself. So this is something that I'm inviting the community into as well. So thanks for being here, making the time, and contributing your time, energy, thought to this conversation, of course, but as we've mentioned, lots of other things.
Yeah, and I love what you're doing here as well. I think it's really great. And I think, well, I look forward to the rest of the season, to be honest, because there'll be some great guests. There already have been so far. And I just wanted to add real quick, we say, we first met the next day and everything. Actually, the first time we really spoke was in a space. I think it was your space, and you had Chess
Right.
Education hosting it. And I kind of knew Chess Education over a little bit of back and forth at that time.
Yeah.
And he kind of just went, oh, we should bring up Tom. And then I came up, and that was the first time we actually spoke. And they were like, oh, we're all going to xDay together. Let's meet up. And yeah, that was just fun.
Was that Twitter space that occurred basically the same week as xDay 2022?
I think it was like 2 days before. And we were talking then about the fact that MultiversX hadn't even brought out the agenda for xDay and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that actually reminds me of a question before we I'd like to direct the conversation more market oriented.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, that reminds me of this question. I don't remember when it was brought up, but it's along the lines of the approach of MultiversX and the best way, in your perspective, to not build community as members of the community, but what do you think are ways that MultiversX can make a positive impact on their awareness in the globe, without simply throwing money at the internet? Because even though it's spurred on a lot of excitement, the idea of creating competitions and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars, millions of dollars on X, through campaigns and hypergrowth X. Because here's what I am trying to get into: a more sophisticated level of I'm trying to get to a level of skepticism with MultiversX, because I find skepticism spurring on good questions and knowledge. So expressing some skepticism about some of those things that were highly useful for you, making that video, sharing it with others. That's kind of my curiosity that I'm going to throw to you.
Yeah, that's kind of something I would say the core believers of MultiversX, me, you, and a lot of other people have really been thinking for the last 2 years. We were talking about it all the time last year in those spaces. And, it's really good that the MultiversX team are finally doing some of those things. They're finally doing hackathons. They're finally encouraging in live events and stuff like this. I'd like to see grants come to the ecosystem as well, because that's one of the biggest drivers for startups to really come. And we've still got we've still got Solana. I know it's a bear market, so it's hard for them to give money away like crazy. But it'd be great to see a lot of more of these kind of things. And in terms of like the community,
But so to interrupt, that's
yeah,
just money redirected rather than investing money into a campaign. And my question to put it on you is from the perspective of the team, and this is to help the team if they happen to watch, or anybody to comment on in the replies, because to me, my question always does point to those things too, like, yeah, fuel some competition, have something to give back to the people. And my plug as I speak about these things refers to many things on X Portal, the super app from MultiversX, and how they have daily XP rewards. You have streaks that you keep the community engaged. There's a chat on X Portal where you can discuss with your friends on the blockchain, and technically through X Portal. But more recently, they had mystery box challenge where they were gifting more money. But more specifically, xDay upcoming here in a few weeks, if you had a certain level of streak on the app, you got a percentage off of your xDay ticket. So I think I just want to applaud MultiversX for those initiatives, because I do believe that that's a better and more sustainable approach to captivating and capturing an audience. But of course you're right, because we need, as we know, this hackathon coming up, you're participating, and there's a list of people who are participating, and the amount of excitement and attention it's going to get is you can't necessarily put a price on some of those things. But if you want to add to what I've shared with you right now about some of those initiatives, or speak more highly and talk about how and why some of those things are worth throwing money at, I would love to hear your response.
yeah. I actually didn't know about that streak giving you a percentage off your ticket. I think
That's pretty cool.
that's an amazing. Yeah, I genuinely think that's one of the best ideas I've heard. One of the reasons for that is because it's not them just throwing hundreds of thousands at people. It's actually them making it more affordable for people to
Yeah,
come.
yeah.
It's also them, really giving the rewards to people that actually care about these things. I just wanted to say real quick, like what they do with the app is really good, and it really helps to engage, especially through like a bear market.
Mm-hmm.
People are very pressed and they don't really have things to do, so it's nice for people to get an extra thing that really engages them, and also can show like their friends, like, look what I just got today because I just came on
Yeah,
this all the
yeah,
time. And that's kind of how you really spread these things, through word of
yeah.
mouth. Crypto in general kind of has a bad mark still, with all these problems with regulators, and also people just saying it's scams. And it doesn't help that there's a massive hack every week and all this kind of stuff. So I would say, like, for bringing people in and stuff like that, it's very difficult. But I would say actually in-person events are probably the best ones, because
Mm.
what do you talk about the most when you see people? You haven't seen someone for like 3 months. What are you talking about first, kind of thing? You're talking about like where you went, where you've been, what cool things did you do, and all this kind of stuff. So like in a month's time, I'll be telling people I was in Bucharest, Romania, and they're like, oh wow, that's really interesting. What were you doing in Romania? And I'm like, oh well, I was just at this conference for this blockchain that I've been a part of. And then you go into it a little bit, and they don't mind going into the conversation, because actually it's an interesting event that happened. Whereas, if you just start the conversation out with like, oh, have you heard of this blockchain called MultiversX? Everyone's like,
Yeah, yeah.
turn off straight away, kind of thing.
Dude, xday literally sounds like Twitter. Like, I don't know how they did it, right? Because there's always this question of Elron network and its relation with Lord of the Rings and its impact on the change to Multiverse X. That's behind us, because to me the focus now is that they got in front of X before Elon did. I mean, you referred to it in conversation earlier. You said one's X platform, referring to previously known as Twitter platform on live spaces. you called it X platform. And it's like all of a sudden I was like, oh wow, what are like all these things? I mean, let's really keep both of our fingers crossed that the MultiversX team truly did get in front of that branding before Elon Musk elicited his billions of dollars on patents and copyrights. Because what wouldn't that be great? You know, third time's a charm. We have to change the name again.
Yeah, that would that would not be great. I think a lot of the Multiverse X kind of thing was when they were really bringing it out, they had like those 10 big products, and they were like, what's really cool about that? The Roman numeral X. But I would say as well, just like a little funny story,
Sure.
the platform was called Twitter when I first started xSpaces, and I called it xSpaces, and I didn't know that it was going to be called X in the end. Although
Yeah,
obviously I
man,
did
that's
know
so
that
funny.
Elon Musk loves the letter X, but I just thought it sounded cool, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Especially because Multiverse X and then like X Spaces is kind of how I got the name in the first place. And actually, Chessucation was helping me a little bit with the name. But when when I got it, I did the at and I had to do X Spaces, but
Mm-hmm.
with a E instead of an E. And
Yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like, who has the at X Spaces? Turns out Elon Musk had already registered the at X Spaces like before he had even bought the company.
Oh, really?
And that account is actually still going on right now, but they never do any spaces.
Wow,
So
interesting.
I'm
So you
why
you
don't
were
they just give it to
almost
us?
there.
Almost exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a funny point. And again, as I was kind of saying and what spurred on that tangent that I took about the name change and its interaction with Elon Musk is what you said about the importance. So first, just to re-guide our conversation and reminding the viewers too, we were talking about X Portal, how a certain streak on claiming your daily XP gave you a percentage discount of your xDay ticket, which is coming up this year, but it will be an annual event. And I've written about it, and my belief is that it's going to be akin to an annual, like any other developer thing, like big names like Google and Samsung and Apple. I feel like they always have their premier event, and how convenient that X day is associated with the blockchain multiverse X. But if you tell people, which going forward you should just own it, be like, I was at X day in Bucharest. It's like, oh wait, people will start to connect that. It was like, oh yeah, Twitter, maybe because right now the whole X versus Twitter is still transitioning. But once X is in the majority of the population's mind that X is Twitter, and we say we went to X day, it's like, oh, that sounds like a Twitter event. So it's just like, how odd. Like some like, and this reminds me of Wesley Kress, which shout out to Wesley Kress. He was an OG content creator before Multiverse X began. And he had this analogy that speaks in many different forms of life, that one should skate to where the puck is going and not where the puck is. And this perfectly aligns with this idea of X Day and Elon Musk and Twitter and much broader things that make it all feel like a what do you call it, a simulation. Because
Yeah.
I don't know what CEO Benjamin's bio is right now on Twitter, but it used to be hacking the simulation. So we can get into conversations about simulations, but I find it very interesting that within the analogy of skating to where the puck is going rather than where it is, they captured the X day kind of title, and pointing it really just back to you, because I agree those real life in person events are what really the community and the whole movement are about, and it's something that I took home with me. And ever since, as we speak here, we saw each other at X Day #1, which I'm going to say it right now that I'm gonna start referring to the X days in like Roman numerals, or just calling it X day 1 or X day 2, because I ain't gonna be talking about X day 2022 or X day 2023. It's X day #1. Tom and I met, the energy, the excitement, the focus of all these different areas of people, and eventually coming together and just partying and kind of having a little bit too much wine in Paris, France. But it was just like, what the hell, like this is a million percent what the whole point of it kind of really is. And it's so small right now. I know you said something about that in the early moments of this video, just where we are in the scheme of adoption. And there's much more that we could say about that. But I still at least want to close this monologue of mine with I'd like to invite you to respond to what I've just shared. And I would like to move into a conversation more about the market. You mentioned that, for over a decade now, you've been watching markets and balancing and trading your portfolio for sustainability and so forth. So it would be a shame to leave this episode without giving the viewers an opportunity to hear what's behind your mind in a more trading and portfolio investment management perspective. So if you'd like to respond on lots of the things that I just responded to you about, xDay, Twitter, Elon, AI, I'd like to open it up for the conversation to breathe, but again, the marketing conversation, rather the state of the market and different sectors of the market, I would like to hear from whenever you're ready for us to hear from you.
Well, yeah. Well, I could talk about those conversations all the time. I could talk about AI for hours and hours and hours. But the only thing I wanted to add really quick to that, because I do agree with everything you just said. The only thing I wanted to add is with that first xDay one, we had, it was such a great experience. We all went out, loads of different of us from the conference each night, and we had great conversations. We had a lot of fun. And there was one night, I don't remember which night it was, the community actually arranged an event in some pub in Paris.
Yeah.
And it was a really cool event. There was like NFT tickets. I didn't know about it at first, but I think Stephen, you told me about it. And we kind of went to that. And that was the same day when the VIP people were supposed to be having the dinner with the team and everyone like this. So this was kind of the community's way of like getting together and having a fun event. And it was a really fun event. I think it must have been at least 200 people there or something like that. It was a lot of people. And, we really had a lot of fun there. And towards the end of the night, even some of the team members, Lucian Tadea and Alex Radu, I think, as well. I can't remember who else. There were a few people from the team, and they all came to the event as well, which was really cool to see. And I just loved that, honestly, just how that was also kind of the vibe through xDay as well. They have the VIP section like up there. And obviously these VIPs spend a lot of money on their tickets. But actually, the team probably spent most of the time like in the general area so that just anyone could talk to them. And I thought that was really cool.
I had a VIP ticket and I didn't use its perks worth really a darn. The VIP room was a place to get away. And to me, it was more engaging to be with the general community. So there's something to be said about the VIP, but also a lot more to be said about just the entrance, and considering the fact that if you buy a ticket with a 40% discount, I mean, that's one thing that I noticed about this year's xDay is that the tickets were repriced in a much better spot. xDay tickets last year were, both of the tiers were expensive, I would dare say, but this year, especially considering the discounts that they're providing, it's like, I mean, it's a little bit more expensive than a movie ticket. Like, that's, I think, incredible. And it's like, is xDay going to start selling out arenas, like in the scheme of mass adoption? Like, I don't know. I mean, who's to say how much revenue they could eventually generate from, forget all of these media and publicity platforms such as CoinDesk. And so it's like xDay is the premier blockchain event of the globe. If your belief is that blockchain and Web3 will progress and MultiversX will be in the top 10, top 20, even maybe like top 5, it's like if MultiversX makes it to those levels, xDay is going to be a place that it's going to be beyond exclusive. It's going to be the premier event that happens once a year. It'll be televised. It'll be akin to any other event.
In fact, speaking of arenas, they kind of have one this year. We've got Palace of Parliament in Bucharest, which is second biggest admin block in the world after the Pentagon. So it's a massive building, and it's going to be having the conference and the hackathon on at the same time, I think. So they'll probably split that up. I'll probably be in between, but yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, we can talk about a bit of the market if you'd like now too.
Yeah, I could agree with you what you said a moment ago about my ability, your ability to talk about the market for a while now. But to focus on what I mentioned, what I find would be most valuable for the audience to hear is what your approach to the market is, and the specific question is, a journey. It's not a question at all, rather than it's an invitation for you to explain, first and foremost, your views on the market, because I think I can summarize the idea on the crypto. If you're watching now, you have a good idea of what's building, and we're in a bear market, and no, we're not in this crazy volatile place yet. So feel free to speak more to crypto kind of towards the end, because I feel like there's a lot of importance in bridging that gap between what the traditional mindset of an investor, a trader is, and how somebody like you is bringing that to a more complete side of allocation between the many different assets to trade on. You mentioned gold, you mentioned oil, so commodities, and you mentioned indexes. So I'll leave it there. Again, I can always wrap it around and ask you a direct question, but I'll throw the
Yeah,
mic back over to you, Tom.
yeah. I mean, I've kind of so I love trying new things. I love doing all these things all the time. So I've done coding, I've done trading, I've done all these kind of things, and it's just kind of because I really love to learn new skills. So trading, putting it in perspective, like trading and investing are completely different animals in every single sense. Trading is obviously when you're just looking for the price to change and you want it to change in the way that you've actually invested or traded. And then investing, in my opinion, is when you actually believe the core foundation of the business or product that you're investing in, and you're willing to go for many years, or some people just a few months. But trading, there's a set time and it's just about the price action. It's not about, the belief of the fundamentals or anything like this. I actually, when I started out trading, don't know, I guess because I'm a risk junkie in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trading gold at 200x leverage, which means like for every dollar I had, it was $200 I was playing with. And that also means that if the price drops, so like if you had 100x, if the price dropped 1%, you're liquidated and you lose everything you had in that position. If it's 200x and it drops 0.5%, then you're liquidated in everything you do. So it's pretty crazy. And I kind of turned that from, very luckily, I must say, it was not skill. I turned that $100 that I put in into 15 grand. And that was kind of just blind luck, really. I was just buying gold because I thought it would do well. But to be honest with you, I didn't really have any fundamentals behind it. I just thought the price would go up based on my rudimental understanding of the chart at that time. And then I basically made that 15 grand in 2 months, and I lost it all in 2 weeks, in two trades
Wow.
specifically, which basically shows you like how little I actually understood it. And I definitely did not
Wow.
understand risk management at that time.
So can I
And
interrupt and ask if you took those profits, or was that just your portfolio's highest value and you maintained position and it lost it all?
I maintained position and lost it. I didn't take anything out
Patience, man.
because
Sometimes it goes in the opposite direction.
I learned a lot from like, and to be honest with you, investing and trading over the years, I've learned like thousands of lessons. But with
Mm,
that one, I learned is the risk management. I also learned, taking some off the table as you go along as well,
mm,
because when I was doing that trading, I made like for the first few trades, I made like maybe 50 pence, 60 pence, £1 20. Then I went up to £10, then it was £50, then it was £120. And then it was like, oh, I made 1,000 in that one. That's amazing.
mm,
But every single time I kept on saying, like, from that $100, I said, like, if I make 500, I'll take out 100 so that my initial investment is back. And
mm,
then I said, like, when I hit 1,000, I'll take out 200. And I kept on going up, but I never took the money out because I kept on
mm,
going, oh, what? If I keep it in, then that's more that I can leverage to make more. And that was like one of the big mistakes I made with that. So it ended up
mm.
with me $100 down. but I felt like I was 15 grand down because
Yeah.
my portfolio was worth that much at that time.
Wow. Wow. So you really believed that screen number of what your portfolio, like you really kind of, it sounded like it really fueled you and excited you, and you believed that it was yours.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it was just 2 clicks away, basically, withdraw funds and send it to the bank account, basically. But yeah, I learned a lot from that. And to be honest with you, if I didn't make so many of these stupid mistakes, I would be very financially free right now.
I mean, I
But
could
we all
say the
learn from
same
them.
thing. I'm sure a lot
Yeah,
of others could
exactly.
say the
I'm
same thing as
sure.
well.
I'm sure you've had very similar kind of examples. I know in one of the Twitter spaces a month or two ago, we were talking about trading, and it seems like you believed strongly in kind of what I was saying with how risky and how it can all just go sideways, and also you're kind of just you're addicted to the app. Like you get to that stage where I was trading gold, oil, forexes, all of these things, and I could tell you at any time, exactly what the price of every single one of those assets was. And I think when you get to that moment, you kind of realize, unless you're making millions and like this is your full-time job, you kind of realize maybe you're spending a little bit too much time on this.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, trading is a unique thing, and it was fun to hear that and share that conversation with you because you kind of spurred me on to have this thought of patience. And what I said was, yeah, isn't that funny? Like, sometimes patience goes the opposite way. And when I spoke that, what I really meant was an idea of like opposite way, like you should have been impatient. But in a roundabout way, like the impatience went the opposite way, and it spoke directly more to the idea of price, and it didn't go up and it went down. And to me, we'll see how far this carries into my philosophy that I'm in, continually developing. But that to me perfectly depicts why trading is a gamble, because I believe that there is patience and there's impatience, and to balance those two, I don't think is something that is very reliable because of all the biases and all of the emotions that sway us left and right. I remember the first bull market that I was, latched on to in cryptocurrency, and it made me equal parts blown away and excited and in disbelief. But then along with that was this whole idea of like, wow, like my life has changed, like
Mm.
fundamentally, like principally, and I will be able to like take this resource and create a new idea of what my future is. But that is what money gives somebody the access to. And to me, that's why gambling is such a horrible beast, because it's all fueling a different mindset that, in my belief, isn't healthy. I think that building consistently over time, and even though it's fun to trade and it's fun to dip into DeFi and different blockchain concepts, the idea of sustainability, even though we want to see our portfolio blast off, my belief at this point is that just low and slow. And to me, within my risk portfolio, I would say that 100% of your crypto portfolio would probably be well off staking in EGLD. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, because there's so much more that I could say. But if I was to make one blanket statement, 100% of your cryptocurrency portfolio, the lowest, slowest, is like just staking EGLD. But of course, like if you want to almost like go to like the -1 of risk, like if I would have taken profits from my EGLD and split EGLD USDC liquidity provider tokens on my exchange, now X exchange, that would have just taken my portfolio to new levels. So I will say that that's a large conversation on the power of DeFi, where X exchange is truthfully a very small player in the ecosystem surrounding MultiversX, the EGLD native layer 1 token, and then that size within the much broader spectrum of all layers and all protocols and all of the jargon. So X Exchange to me still has a great area to improve, but it may not be such that I expect it to be so paramount to the ecosystem.
I think the point about sustainability is a very crucial one. I've got a lot of experience, good and bad, of trading and also just investing in general, investing in risky things. So, like one of the startups, not even startup, I invested in a small cap company, it's worth about $60 million, and I invested it around COVID when like the whole market crashed. Within 9 months, that investment had gone 36x, which is like
Wow.
for stocks, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
one thing I learned from that as well was, firstly, I was an idiot with that one. I only sold like 15% or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I should have sold the whole thing and then reallocated it to other areas which were like down and stuff like this and had more room to grow.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of brings you into it. Like sustainability is so important. You need to do like these dollar cost averaging investing. When you believe in an asset, when you believe in a stock, a currency, a whatever it is, product, you need to dollar cost average in the bad times. Because if you actually truly believe in it and you think it's going to do well, then you want to really reap the benefits for when it goes up. Obviously, you don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to make yourself financially liable because of your extending for the investments.
Yeah.
We never know when the markets are truly going to push round. And that's kind of what I was going to go into a little bit, which is the overview of markets. I've only really had one cycle properly because I did invest in 2017, but in, stocks and cryptos and 2018 and stuff like that. But I kind of took a break for like 2.5 years or something. And then I came back like end of 2019. And so I've only really had this one cycle, and you really learn a lot from that, which is, it doesn't really matter how good the product is. It doesn't really matter how good the stock is, even if the overall markets around the world are thinking, you know what, we've gone a little bit too hard here. Let's take a little bit of a break. And part of that is the Federal Reserve. I know me and Stephen, at times we've had little arguments about the impact that they have, but me personally, I think they have a massive impact, and part of that is because the markets really react to what they say. They really react to the policies that they put in place, the quantitative tightening, which is essentially taking money out of the economy, because quantitative easing is what we see, obviously 2020, and also in the Inflation Reduction Act and all these kind of things where they print money, and that's quantitative easing, which is basically printing of the money. We can go into the technicals if we want, but quantitative tightening is what's going on right now, along with rising interest rates. And rising interest rates means that loans are more expensive. It means that mortgages are more expensive. It means that you don't really have the money to like play around anymore. It also means that like savings are better. So like if you put money in a savings account, you're making maybe 3% now or 4%. It should be higher, but the banks are not passing on as much as they should be. But part of that is because, these savings rates, why would some people risk assets on stocks and stuff like this, or indexes which go up maybe 4% a year, when they can just save it in a bank for 3% and there's no risk really? Well, it's supposed to be no risk.
Yeah.
So I think that's a lot of the mindset right now. And, these are the times to buy. And I started buying way too early with eGold. I sold a little bit, not much. I should have sold a lot more, around the $400 level of eGold, which is really good. It did go up to 500 on a brief spike, but I really started to invest quite heavily actually when it came down to like $120 and then lower. And then I just started dollar cost averaging, and I kind of ran out of funds for that. I still had like a little bit here and then when I make some money, but of those funds that I had, I kind of ran out of them around the $50-$60 mark, which isn't terrible, but I wish I had waited longer. I wish I had really understood the markets better at that time.
Yeah. Yeah. So you mentioned that you were a part of the initial offering, not a seed investor, of course, but you were one of the primary first rather investors of back then ERD on Binance. So what was your involvement? How did you even find Elrond network back then? I think you mentioned running into the team, but perhaps that was a little bit after you may have been introduced to the concept, the token as well.
Actually, funny enough, back then, so that was 2018. I was kind of looking into cryptos, and at first, I I kind of thought that they were scams at 2017 time, and then I saw Bitcoin really go up, and then I was like, oh, okay, this seems like there's actually something behind this. So I started to look into that a bit, and I started to look into other projects just more generally, and stocks as well at that time. But actually, I just came across the video from Binance kind of randomly. I think I was looking at Binance at the time, and then I kind of just saw the Launchpad video. And I just, as I said earlier, I just really liked what Benny was saying. But at the same time, I was actually thinking this might well be a scam. And my involvement wasn't very much. I kind of just bought it and left it. And I left it in a trust wallet. And in fact, a 2 years later or 3 years, I think 2 years later, when they had that bridge from ERD to EGLD, I kind of found out from that very luckily, because actually I wasn't following MultiversX at all at that time. And I had made a lot from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Cardano. And I was kind of just like looking what other cryptos I may have bought. And then I kind of found that that bridge was going on. And I was like, oh, I need to get this going, otherwise I'm gonna miss the chance to keep that investment. And yeah, I kind of just put that through, and I think it was like 40, 50 gold or something I got from that exchange. So I think it was something around that, so not bad. And then I just put it into delegation staking basically, and just left it from there. And then I really started to research and really get into the crypto rabbit hole, which has led me to where I am today.
Yeah, so I'm curious to hear about the MVP. I don't know how much you can share about it, but we've talked a lot about xDay already in this conversation, more alluded to it last year, and at some point, I want to pick your brain more regarding any sort of predictions, which of course is informed by all your participation through xSpaces. And that's the other thing about the xSpaces Twitter. It's like that is like proof of work. You know what I mean? Like people can go on your account and they can see every single solitary Twitter space that, Tom has been in. And like you would have to try not to learn anything from that amount of exposure. I mean, so that's something that's really cool in the scheme of blockchain, using proof of work in these different forms of metric. But like we already talked about how much work it is to do this, and the collection of these spaces, it's proof of work. And to me, it leads your voice, your word, to be that much more meaningful and informed. And again, this is literally, I'm just like shilling Tom right now because he's somebody you want to meet him at xDay coming up soon in a couple weeks here. So what can you tell us about the MVP that you're working on? I was in the spaces when you talked with somebody about, I'm thinking about doing this. It's my idea and we'll see. But then you took and ran with it. Within days, I reached out and questioned you on what was going on, and you'll be at xDay. So yeah, let's dive in a little bit about what you're preparing for the hackathon, where that came from a little bit, and then maybe start to lean more into xDay anticipations and just hearing about your excitement as we approach that big day.
Yeah, for sure. And I really appreciate everything you just said as well. Stephen, you're always a great supporter of us, but we always try and give good quality, of course. I always say with anything I do, quality is first, engagement is optional. You can choose if you want to engage or not, but it'll be quality no matter what. And actually, someday with xSpaces, I'd love to start doing some really cool stuff. So I've got a little bit too much on my plate right now, but I'd love to start integrating blockchain in some way for xSpaces. So we could even give like, for example, like little NFT memorandum for coming to a space and all this kind of stuff to remind you that you came, and thank you for that. And then you could even like update it like based on how many of the spaces you can. Anyway, I'm thinking about a few different things, but like talking about the hackathon. So obviously you in that space where I was like talking about maybe doing it, and I was quite interested in it. I've actually been really wanting to build for my startup, which I mentioned earlier. And the startup, just to briefly explain it to anyone, is basically proving the impact of donations to charities through blockchain technology. And that's essentially, like these days with charities and everything like this, I've got a lot of experience at charities. You give money to them, you don't really know what's going on with it. You don't know how well they're spending it. And then at the end of the day, most of the time, you don't get the updates. You don't really know what's happened. And if you're in the big charities, you get this like, I've read many of them this year. You get like 120-page financial report and all this kind of stuff. And I won't lie, like a lot of these charities that are doing these financial reports, they have actual accountants and stuff like this. And accountants sometimes, especially with these things, they like to almost trick you in some ways. So like I saw this one where, and this is going on a tangent, but I'll be quite quick.
Sure.
I saw this one charity which basically they raised, it was 180 million in the year, and they basically claimed that they had spent about 85% of the funds on charitable activities. But what they didn't do was show you the ins and outs of it. If you actually went into the financial accounts, it actually showed that when they were doing the net revenue, they took out any money for fundraising. So they spent about 45 million on fundraising. So that's like 135 million left. Mm-hmm. And they took that 135 as the figure which they put the benchmark. So they spent like 110 or something like that million on charitable activities, and they divided that from the 135 rather than from the 180, which was actually raised. And so you're like, if you actually do the maths on that, they only spent like 56% or 54% or something. So, a lot of the time, even when they are trying to be transparent, a lot of the time they kind of cheated a little bit. And yeah, there's a lot to go in for all that kind of stuff. But what I'm really trying to do with this business, which I'm just starting, is prove the impact to people and also make them feel like they're part of the journey. They get the cool updates, they get the cool pictures and videos, they get to see, the people that it's actually impacting the donation for. And then even more so, we can then add a lot more up-to-date things technology-wise. We can use some AI to make the experience for the charities better so that they can even find grants and all this kind of stuff. So there's a lot that I'm really trying to do with it. And then I just kind of thought with this hackathon, perfect opportunity to like get a team together and get them excited about building like an MVP for this, because I've submitted grant applications. I'm waiting on the results right now for the company. I'm also going to be applying for incubators and accelerators. But, when you look for like VC funding and all this kind of stuff, equity raising, you really need, especially these days, an MVP to really show them so that they can actually get a feel of what you're trying to do, and also to prove to them that you can actually build it basically on a very small budget. So this hackathon was a perfect event to really get that out. And I got a team together. I got a guy, 5 years software experience, and he's the full stack, so he does back end and front end. I also got a guy for front end, and actually my brother to do some of the data analysis and stuff like that, because that's more of his field. I've obviously got a lot of knowledge in blockchain. I don't know how to code very well, but I've trying to be learning that. The problem I found was life gets in the way. The person who's the front end, he was still doing his master's and his dissertation got extended. So he's actually just finishing that now. So he hasn't had time to do it. I was in Uganda for 2 weeks and I thought I would have more time, but I didn't have as much time as I wanted. So I couldn't do that much during that time. And then the full stack guy, he's looking for a job. He needs a visa because he's in the UK and he's Indian. and it's a lot of work to do, and he's basically not been able to spend much time on it either. So actually now, since I got back from Uganda, it's just been me working on it for like 95% of it, and then my brother's done a bit of data analysis. So in terms of like what we'll get out there, I'm hoping we can get a small MVP out, but we'll have to see over the next few days if I can get something really going there.
Dude, that's super exciting. And if I'm not mistaken, you first told me about this concept last year. Is that right? After one of the nights, I think we were hanging out with
Yes.
some Chessication, Lucas, and then yeah, well, there's a pub over there, and we're in Paris. How about another? And I think this is where you first told me about this idea, and I would say it's I don't know, as much as it's nice to go home and get some sleep from the long day, anybody going to xDay, I would definitely encourage you to spend that extra minute or time with somebody who you're there with. And whether that's one person or a group of individuals, yeah, there's a lot of fun in getting to know one another. So, Tom, you told me about this concept nearing a year ago now. And my question to you is whether you anticipated a hackathon event to spur this on, and how far into the process of you developing all of this. I know it goes years back, and lots of things have informed this passion of yours. But when did you really start putting some serious rubber to the road, and how's the experience been?
So, this is obviously the first time that I've really properly started a company. I did have a small thing at one point, but I don't count that as a proper company. So I think there was, with something like this, there's so much to get to know, so much to learn. And, there's such a big learning curve kind of thing. I really started out, obviously, xDay last year with just an idea, and I was still like building out the documentation. So I built out a business plan, I built out product roadmap, and all this kind of stuff, like how exactly it would be done.
Mm.
And then I started meeting like a lot of successful business people to advise me on like what to do. Every single one of them had a different piece of advice, which was funny. I find a lot of people, they make it in different ways, and they like to say how they made it, but it's funny because they all make it. Obviously, they're also in different industries, so different things matter for different industries. But it's interesting because they'll say like, you should go out and you should do sales pitches, or like you should do some product launching and all this kind of stuff. And you kind of just think, well, you're kind of pushing me in all the directions at once, so it's quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I also started like reaching out to hedge funds and other people for like advice and stuff like this. They read it and they said, that's interesting, but we'd like to see an MVP.
Mm.
So back in January, February time this year, I really started to take it more seriously, I think. I really started to build out all the documentation. I built it all out. And then I started actually trying to find some people in like March, April time to actually join me with this project, which was very difficult because at this stage, I don't have money to pay salaries. And in terms of equity, it's difficult for two reasons. Because one, you have different understandings of like what the value of an idea is. If me, obviously, I'm the founder, it's my idea, I'm passionate about it. I think that this idea is worth $2 million or something like this. And so they may think it's worth 200 grand or something like this. So they may ask for like 10% equity for a year's work. And to me, I'm just like, that's kind of a lot. That's too
Mm.
much. But at the same time as well, I have to think about VCs and people like this or angel investors that want to invest in the company. If I've already given out 10% equity before even an angel investor comes in, they're not going to be very happy with the way that's being run. So it could jeopardize funding in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
future. So it's a lot to think about, and I've really been going through it all. And I did actually start building out that team. Obviously, people were busy at the time, and they were working for free basically. But obviously, with this hackathon, they were going to share any prizes that we would have got, and also if it went further from there, I was going to give them a little bit of equity, a small amount. But yeah, there's a lot, and I kind of really started to realize this summer that actually it just needs to start being built. And this hackathon was like amazing to happen. And I really hope that that would bring people into helping me with it. But even if it doesn't, it's still great to actually push me into actually starting to build it myself.
Dude, yeah. Man, that's a lot of excitement going on, and it's all leading up to this hackathon event happening in just, over, I think just over a week now. So, in your view, and because I also want to invite a conversation that at least touches on your individual views on the idea of the whole cross chain. I know that in that Radix space, I believe you mentioned a debate about the atomic composability. I think that maybe was even called atomic swaps back in like 2017 or something like that. So, in your view, what are some of the most exciting developments or trends in cryptocurrency, and how do you think that they would shape the future?
That's a great question. I I would say like I used to spend a lot more time looking cross chain. I actually started out in Ethereum really, and then I went to Cardano and Solana, and then I really came to MultiversX once NFTs were available here. And I used to spend a lot more time cross chain, and I think it's a very good thing to do. I think everyone should really do it. We can't, you can't really stay in your bubble and really innovate or even grow because you don't really know what anyone else is doing. You don't know what the market wants you to do and all these kind of things. So it's very important to have perspective. And, in terms of trends, what I'm loving right now is the AI trend.
I
And
had a
I think,
feeling you were going to say something about that. I had asked you before we took our little break, what things you found to be most exciting in recent developments, things that might have a huge influence on the shape of, there it goes again, of the cryptocurrency future. So you mentioned AI, and there's a lot that we could talk about with AI. So let's just kick it back into there. Answer the question and continue going down that rabbit trail of AI. But if I never finished what I was going to say, drop a like and tell us in the comments if you're like listening right now and you want that long conversation. I guess just like we have to know, because I don't want to make it too long, but hey, we need to know so we can do it. So please proceed. Throwing the mic back over to you and taking my
yeah.
last.
And thank you. And I recommend everyone as well to subscribe to Stephen and this
Thanks, man.
podcast because this is really a lot of work that you have to do for this. And I think it's really beneficial for the space as well. I'm not speaking biasly. I think I'm probably, there's some better guests that you can listen to. There've been some great conversations so far, and I've been enjoying it. But yeah, in terms of like the question, there are a lot of really exciting. I think the crypto industry in general, it's obviously very much in the early adoption stage. And when an industry is in that kind of stage, there's constant innovation, there's constant people trying to build new things, cool new things, and really trying to break the mold in the space. So AI is what I said, and that's a very general topic, of course. What I really meant by that, particularly in the crypto space, is two things really. One of them is AI actually being able to use blockchain better and the products better, and people will actually be able to engage with them better, and it will be a lot easier. They won't necessarily have to actually, look download a wallet and like sign transactions and all this kind of stuff. Maybe in the future, AI will be able to do a lot of that kind of stuff in a secure way for them. And then they can just have the user interface, which we have for normal Web2 and stuff like this, which is what people really want because they want things to be easier, not harder. And I would say like crypto is definitely that missing link in the internet. I think the internet really gave way to the powers of the big companies, which could use all our data and they could use analytics however way they want. There's not much transparency. There's not much actual security even there as well. A lot of unless they're spending billions a year on security, a lot of the data is actually very much up for grabs for hackers and all this kind of stuff as well. So blockchain's a really useful link for all of that. And the second thing with the AI is, we've talked about a lot on xSpaces, the super intelligence possibility in AI. And there's three levels of AI, which is narrow artificial intelligence, then there's general artificial intelligence, then there's super intelligence. At the moment, we've mainly seen narrow. We're going into the general with a lot of these LLMs like ChatGPT, Bard, Claude, and all these ones here. And we'll as they progress more and more, they'll really go into that general level. And then what people are expecting at some point, and I think it's definitely going to happen someday, is the super into AI intelligence. And that's really scary because I'm not scared about AI hacking into nuclear bunkers or anything like this, like everyone else is scared of right now, because I think other AIs will be made to stop those AIs from hacking into them and all that kind of stuff. I'm scared about when they become more intelligent than us. And I know this is going off on a tangent, so I'll try and bring it back in a little bit. But when they become more intelligent, that's really when when you have the higher level thinking. You know, if you think about a dog or something like that, the only thing they can think about is playing around, eating food, and, you know, loving their family and stuff like this, and, you know, many other small things. But they don't understand money, they don't understand economy, they don't understand philosophy, they don't understand all of these nuances that humanity understands and really makes us better in the food chain, and also better in just innovation, creating new things and really cool things, and actually better in controlling our environment on the earth. So when you look at intelligence in that way, if you have a being, which would be these AIs that become more intelligent than us, they could essentially do anything and we wouldn't have a clue what they're doing. Like, we wouldn't understand what they're doing until it's too late. And, you know, it's a scary world in that way. And I think crypto can actually solve that problem, because we're trying to create an algorithm right now, which basically means humanity needs to survive so that AI survives. And if you have that link in there, then all of a sudden AI can't get rid of us because they need us to survive.
Right. Yeah, interesting.
And you can have that in a lot of different ways. You can have it in the morality built into the AI agents. And I think that's what they're trying to do now. They're trying to create that algorithm, which is obviously hard to do because there's a lot of philosophy behind that. But the question then is, even if you have that algorithm, how do you actually keep it in the AI system? Because if you put it in the AI system right now, the AI could just hack itself and remove that so that it doesn't need it. What you need really is something that can't really be hacked, like, say, blockchain, a cryptography solution, which is very difficult to hack unless you have very high compute, or quantum computers one day with many qubits, which would be able to do these kind of transactions very quickly. But even if you had a quantum computer in today's standards, you would still take months, well, days at least, months probably, to hack a blockchain, a hash, and stuff like this. So I think crypto is definitely the solution for really bringing that into power.
That's such an interesting point of how that security of the future of AI, how linking it in and creating humanity to be something that AI depends on to continue itself, like, that does seem to ring true from a standpoint of, like, how do we build this safely? Is like, yeah, and I just wanted to call that out because that does tie into blockchain. And I mean, it's interesting to consider how new mechanisms and even new emerging technologies will come together to with like synergy and work with each other, but in like roundabout ways, like, you know, perhaps as you're saying, you know, using blockchain technology, cryptography as a security mechanism that maintains that dependency on behalf of AI. So yeah, keep sharing about AI. It's something that we could make a whole separate episode about. So keep on pushing on.
Oh yeah, completely. I mean, you know, we've done a few spaces on AI because I just love it so much. And to be honest, we could do many more. And I could actually genuinely talk about it for hours and hours. But I just think that's a very interesting point that I've been thinking of the last few months. And I don't really hear many people talking about. I think blockchain will actually be a crucial part of actually securing our future with AI and keeping those dependencies together. So I think that's a very important one and very exciting. And in terms of like the other ones, you know, crypto is so broad, it's like amazing, really. But DeFi is really cool to see because we're finally seeing some new ways of looking at financing, some ways where you don't need a bank, which, can use your money however they like it.
Yeah.
You actually have these protocols written in mathematics, which actually does what you want it to do in when you want to do it and stuff like this. So that's really cool. Dynamic NFTs, I think that's really cool. And that kind of brings into gaming as well, which I think is good, but I think it's got quite a long way to go. I think we can all say that. And part of the reason why it's got a long way to go, I think, is because of what we see today in crypto, which is just everything you do, you need to sign a transaction. You see some of these social media, crypto, decentralized social media apps, everything you need to do is sign a transaction. You like a message. Imagine if you're going on X and you liked a message, you commented and all this stuff, and every single time you had to sign a transaction.
Yeah,
You're
it's
not really
so
enjoying the
monotonous.
experience. And also, if you're new to crypto, you don't have any funds on your wallet, so you can't even sign a transaction at that point
Right.
because you
Yeah.
don't have the funds to sign it because you don't know the gas fees. And I think that's another thing which we're finally starting to see a lot of businesses realize. And I think a lot of crypto products are really going to start trying to solve these problems. And actually, the one I'm trying to build is very much trying to solve this problem. When I'm talking about like charities showing their transparency or even people donating to charities, if they don't want to use crypto, I think that's fine. They don't have to use crypto, and I don't want them to sign any transactions if they don't want to use crypto. Because if they don't want to use it, and they're being forced to use it on my platform, they're not gonna use my platform.
Yeah.
So I think that's another trend as well. And there's a lot of trends, but I think those are the ones that I'm really interested in right now.
Yeah.
How
I
about
think
you? I'd be interested to hear that.
with regard to artificial intelligence or broadly speaking.
Just broadly speaking.
Yeah, obviously we're both on this show together, so I'm definitely inclined to follow that kind of rabbit trail of a mixture between AI and what even is the latest terminology? Is it Web3? Does that do justice to the blockchain verb or word and even the cryptocurrency word? Like, I guess I didn't answer your question. I'm actually okay with that because normally I just monologue and go off on tangents. But my retort to your question that I didn't answer, yeah, my question too is what is the one word that is all encapsulating? And that to me, it's like it's my response to your question because it's like you answer me this question and you tell me what's the most like exciting thing that's it's like it's not any one thing, it's like everything. And because it's a highly what I believe, I guess it was a rhetorical question, sorry for not allowing you to respond, think on it why I answer it, then it won't be a rhetorical question. But because yeah, what I mean, emerging technology, I mean, I have thoughts on the future and some of the largest opportunities that cryptography, cryptocurrency, blockchain is can be used that currently it is not. And while you were speaking about, this highly emerging technology, both blockchain and AI, to me, it was such an interesting perspective to, as I'm just, diving into what you're talking to me and just letting it kind of resonate within me. It's like how interesting of a concept that through the idea of progress and learning by by failure at times, going back to the earliest forms of the internet and technology, it was so bad, and so nowadays it's all about like slapping band-aids on things. And it's like I had a question while you were speaking and I didn't interrupt you, I'm glad that I remembered it. Is just like, do you think that cryptocurrency, blockchain, like, sorry, I almost said crypto twice. Do you think it all truthfully, maybe it missed its mark, but like it speaks to a bigger issue because it's like maybe for the sake of safety, security, verification, all these positives that cryptocurrency is about, it's like we kind of needed these things and should have had them from the start because there's so many different ways to exploit because of the old gaps in technology from where it started, which was just like, I don't know, man, the emergence of every form of industrialization, whether that be in the world itself. So the question to you is, even though it might be bullish and degens might pump it to the moon, like entertain with me the idea of the like cryptocurrency, AI, all this stuff came too late. And at this point, we're almost reverse injecting it into society. Will it ever actually work? Like, I'll allow you to answer, but in my head, I have this dilemma, is why I'm asking you as a question, because it's like there's two different camps that are forming. Like, it feels to me like a genuinely new reality is emerging, and some will acknowledge it and some will not. But it's not just a reality, like we're living in different worlds. It's like a completely new era of record keeping and where people are living. It's like, obviously we'll always live in the world and have our physical things, but the emergence of the metaverse, the emergence of all of this verifiable blockchain cryptography, everything intertwined with artificial intelligence, it's just like, man, like what world are we living in these days, Tom? Tell me.
It's a crazy one. It is crazy for sure.
But we're
But
only at
I,
the start as well, and that just, it sounds stereotypical, blah blah blah. It's true. I believe it's true. I think it's extremely evident by the size of the market cap how true it is. So please, continue.
yeah, I was just gonna say, obviously with cryptocurrency, I think it did kind of come too late, but obviously it was spurred out of the 2008 financial crisis, which really gave the stand that actually we can't just trust the banks, and the banks ruin everything, and actually they just get bailed out at the end of the day. So it's our taxpayers paying off the banks, which is actually just using our money. So at the end of the day, we've kind of created this vicious cycle
Yes.
of the rich getting richer in that sense, because that's what they're doing. And I think that's really where crypto really came from. They obviously had the decentralization, they had the transparency, they had the security, and they were mostly the free things. But I think actually mostly the last few years, especially, the trend has been data security as well, like data independence, actually controlling some of your data. And I think that's been a big trend that's been coming up. And I think that's almost essential these days. I mean, we've seen companies constantly use the data in the way that we don't want to use it. And actually, many of us are fine with data being used. I'm actually very much okay with YouTube showing me videos that I'd like to see.
Mhm.
I'm fine with that. If I had control over it, I would give them access to it. And I think most people would. But I think it's the ones that we don't know and the ones that we're being viciously targeted by, like scam callers and all these kind of things as well, that we really don't want being sold out. And I think having some kind of proof of record, I would say trust in the world has gone to an all-time low, especially recently. Trust in politicians, all-time low. Charities, the trust, if you look at the records, are actually pretty close to all-time low these days. And I think that really just brings in the mindset of humanity right now. I think we are struggling to trust people. We're struggling to connect with people. And I know the blockchain doesn't necessarily help connect with people, but I think it helps a lot with the trust aspect. And that's the one thing that I really, really believe a lot in. And that's obviously the one that I'm putting a lot of my business behind as well.
How can a trustless system encourage trust?
It's a good question. I would say because a trustless system built on protocols which are transparent means that everyone knows what's happening. Everyone can actually see what is going on. And so, like, for example, if I'm showing I bought computers for a charity or something like this, I can send that transaction, and I can also send a picture with that transaction, and then people can see that. They can see the exact time and day when the transaction was sent, and they can see like what was the description of it. Obviously, you always have that level of is it real? Are they scamming us still? And all that kind of stuff. But it's an extra layer for scammers and people that aren't being real for to overcome. And I think it's a layer that's probably necessary for a lot of the world in some ways.
What would you say if I challenged you, and I'm challenging you to saying that you explained transparency, but the question was a matter of trust?
I would say that one, and I would say it's, yeah, I like the follow-up. I would say trust only really come, I mean, what if you think about trust, who do you trust in your life? A lot of the time people would say their family, some people obviously wouldn't. But if I'm thinking about my family, why do I trust them? Well, I know them very deeply. I've known them for many years. I know how they think as well. So I would say that's a level of transparency. And I would say that's a level of love, of course, as well. But you can't obviously have that in like blockchain. But I would say transparency is a big thing in trust. Why do you trust a charity? Well, a lot of the time, people that trust charities are people that work in the charities or they know someone who work in the charities. Why do you trust them then? Because you've seen the transparency of what them working. You've seen the transparency of possibly people benefiting from it. And I would say they're kind of one and the same, but obviously they are slightly different.
Mhm.
But I'd be very curious to hear what your thoughts are on trust.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought because it paints a picture of where the problem relies, and it's in the humans. Obviously, we make errors in technology and in developing, writing code, sure, but blockchain fundamentally is a trustless system. So it really just only reveals, and it's interesting just your response because the transparency speaks nothing of trust. All that speaks to is credibility. It's like, oh, who takes credit for these transactions, and at that point, it becomes a question of the verified identity of that particular wallet, and all that stuff is very hypothetical. But the question being, how can you have trust in a trustless system is shit, man. That's like it is a good question. Um, because there's two.
But
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's a trustless system, obviously, because if you're sending transactions or anything like this, you are not trusting a company to send it. You're trusting multiple decentralized nodes to verify that transaction and actually make sure that it goes to the right place.
Well,
Even
it
though
just
it's technically called trustless, you are technically still trusting in that system to do it
I
properly.
know, right? And I think that's why it's a little bit funny because it's just like
Yeah.
let's live in a non-reality where we just observe the code and its intention, and we can be like, yes, it's trustless, sure, but and then like and then in practice, it's like, no, I mean like we there's a lot of trust baked into it for sure, referring to just like and that does bring up a conversation of centralization versus decentralization. But of course, just like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm trusting that the internet is going to continue electricity, but trust in a trustless system, I think it always just points back to the individuals, and the emergence of this truth machine is the I would say it's going to emerge as this tool. I truthfully, just given my involvement in crypto during the bear market, to say that I've soaked in every piece of content that MultiversX team has put out, between their hyper growth videos, the most of the town halls. I've missed some live spaces, so forth. But the truth is that the truth is that I haven't necessarily immersed myself too deeply into this whole concept of blockchain being this truth machine, because of my skepticism with it. But addressing it to this conversation, it's like, and then relating it with what I said about the different realities that are emerging, because I know that there are people in my life right now that know AI is a thing, but they literally, it's a no for them, and they therefore are missing out on the progress and the development of that technology, and therefore that world that's emerging, which includes crypto and all that stuff. So it's just like, yeah, I mean, like, people are going to choose this system. It's going to, in my opinion, I think cryptocurrency is going to emerge as, in an underdeveloped sense. It's going to be the key to the lock, and it's going to be that badge, that its own certification, similar, to the whole oh, the dot-com bubble, everything with dot-com in it, valuation exploded. It's like, oh, Twitter verification, you know, that blue check. It's like the new reality that's going to emerge is blockchain fucking verified, you know, and that's going to be, it's just like, it's going to be the new, and it's not, it's going to speak very closely to technology. But what we know that blockchain is going to disrupt the food chain industry, every logistical system, everything. Like,
Yeah.
there, it's, dude, I mean, so bringing it back to the conversation, the question that you redirected on me, what is the most exciting thing, you know, coming out? And I retorted back at you saying, what's, and I'll just pause here, what's the answer, dude? Like, what is the best word? Because clearly this is a highly disruptive conversation, technology, everything. So how do we encapsulate it? Like, what's the one thing that we can kind of, like, you know, put our stamp of approval on? Because I feel like all the individual words that I've spoken so far don't capture the whole picture. And feel free, I love it if you disagree with me and you say, no, this is the word and this is why. That'd be great, because I can rest easier at night knowing that.
I think, yeah, I think you just from everything you just said, there's too hard to say one word. I think if I was going down like a line and I wouldn't have a word for it, I would just say somehow like you're giving to an extent power back to people again. And that's both a good thing and a bad thing, because that also means there's a lot more scams because people have the power to control a lot of their transactions and everything like this, and they can get their wallets drained and all this kind of stuff that we've seen all the time with EVM chains and also Solana as well. And that's, the power back to the people also means that they need to know everything, and that's one of the problems I think with blockchain today in the crypto space. People do need to know everything if they actually want to survive in the space. And it's too much. People have lives. Most people don't care about technology. Well, not most people, but a lot of people don't care about technology. And if you're saying that you need to spend 100 hours reading papers, watching videos, and all this kind of stuff to even properly engage on a day-to-day basis in this space, you're not going to get people in the space.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I was saying AI is going to be massive in this space, because I think AI will really bridge the gap a little bit between people interacting with the blockchain. And I think it will also help people to build as well, for sure.
You're talking about AI and it being, playing a big role in the space. So the question was, AI having to, like, how do you see AI bridging that gap? Are they helping out in a financial way, in a gaming perspective?
I think just in the way of, user interface, user experience, basically, like gaming, for example. If I'm gaming, I'm playing Skyrim or something like this, I don't really want to sign a transaction every time I open a chest. And stuff like this. This kind of stuff needs to be done for me. I don't like I'm really passionate about crypto and blockchain, and I don't want to do that stuff. So no one who is not passionate about it or knows anything about it is going to want to do any of that kind of stuff. So I just think, of one of the reasons I'm saying AI for this, I know a lot of people say, well, there's problems with that because of hallucinations, or, that you can't trust AI and all that kind of stuff. I think one of the reasons I'm saying it is I've already talked about like how small a space we have here, and these people, they need help to really build these products. We either through money, obviously, but money's been drained through the ecosystem the last year and a half, or they need like help with development. And for example, my hackathon project, I can use ChatGPT, I can use AI to easily create me a user interface from a web server or something like this. That's actually very simple. I can get it to do it. It knows all the information and it can code it for me step by step. EGLD, MultiversX, and a lot of other chains, which all have different fundamentals, all have different APIs, all have different like coding packages and stuff like this. The AI doesn't know it. It doesn't know how to code it, and it can't really help me very much. It can read a web page and then try and help me with it, but it's still not great. And I think AI will really help with building a lot more products. And then once you have a lot more products, you have a lot more interfaces, a lot more things, and then people will finally start coming and businesses will start using it more as well.
No, that's great. That's an awesome answer, because that reminds me of, personally for me, I relate with what you're saying. I think we all acknowledge it, as you just did in conversation, that making it easier to build, like, are you kidding me? Like, making anything easier to build is naturally going to bring just, so much opportunity. And the answer to my question was great, because it's like, yeah, like, how cool that would be for me to just sit down with AI right this moment, and just its advanced mini iterations beyond where it is right here, right now. And I can take these ideas, anything, everything, just creativity exploding, and it's real business. It's not an NFT, not to say that there's anything about that, but it's, I have real business ideas, referring to more personal stuff. Like, I am a musician and I have a recording studio here, and I would love some way to capsulize all of this, and start putting artists in this area on the blockchain using NFTs, because I can
Yeah.
sit there and I can explain to you why it makes more sense. And it's in an early stage, just as everything kind of within this space right now it's in an early stage. But in the reality where this becomes the norm, it's like, how it's literally just going to, it will literally decentralize things. Like, your Spotify is going to lose revenue because people aren't streaming anymore, and people who are paying to get their ads run. It's like, okay, well, they're just going to find other ways where the people are watching. I'm not sure how or where, metaverses perhaps. But it's like, there is going to be advertisement and marketing specialists that are going to observe a shift, and this is under the pretense that the world has kept its relative sanity, and there hasn't been any absurd black swan events, which, in my opinion, the Sam Bankman-Fried FTX scandal was not a true black swan event, because that did not impact the sector as a whole. That did not, a black swan event is something devastating, and that was devastating to everybody who was affected to it from a strictly financial perspective, because it was all having to do with the money side of things. But to me, a true black swan event, which is under this pretense that I'm speaking of this technology continuing, it's not a million FTX fraudsters things will continue to happen. But what I'm speaking to continuing is essentially the world as we know it, like, no nuclear war,
Yeah.
has, that sort of stuff. That to me is a true black swan event. FTX and all that stuff was rather unfortunate, could be classified as a black swan event, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think the black swan obviously has been used too much, and COVID was a black swan because it was a global pandemic and it ended up with businesses closed and all that kind of stuff. But
Yes,
people
yeah.
these days, they use the black swan term mainly because of price. As traders using the term, price dips 40% or something like this, they'll call it a black swan, basically.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's overused for sure. But yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, just bringing that background to the idea of AI helping businesses grow, that's something that's really exciting for me. And to me, like, with this new technology, if the government could kind of get its act together, for goodness sake, like, taxes and all of this stuff could be automated on the blockchain, and it will be, if they so choose to.
I think we've gone too far down the rabbit hole of AI and everything like this because there's so much to talk about it with it. And
Yeah.
with your idea, I think that's great. I've another thing with AI, and then we can go over like a couple more questions and then maybe
Yeah.
start wrapping up soon. The last thing I was going to say with like the AI kind of thing as well is your idea was great, and bringing the NFTs kind of thing and stuff like that. Then also I was listening to a podcast a few weeks ago, and this guy was talking about creating a news app. And, it's not like game-changing idea or anything like this, but the news app would basically scour the whole internet like every single day and pick out the news articles no matter what application, what media or anything like this, it could even translate it into whatever language you speak, and it would pick it out for you based on the kind of things that you really want to see. And I think a lot of that's going to start coming up a lot more as well. And it may even be with like the music and stuff like this. It may even be decentralized sources because obviously we talk about decentralization. Decentralization is also in the media and stuff like this. You see Twitter threads that you would love to read, you can't read because you don't know who's writing them and they're off somewhere else. But AI can read everything in one go and then find them all for you. And that's really cool to see as well. And I think that's another trend that'll be coming up.
Yeah. Um, I kind of remembered what I was also getting lost in earlier. Once the quantum computing continues to become more advanced, it's just like this technology is going to be really helpful. And that led me to just question the whole paradigm of things that generate revenue. And that's where I got lost in the whole cigarette and jewel bit. It was actually the idea of scaffolding. So the idea of scaffolding in New York, you visit New York these days, the majority of the buildings will be covered in scaffolding because many years ago, a brick fell off a building and hit and killed somebody. So now there's city code that requires, an evaluation of the exterior, so many times, I don't know if it's on a yearly basis. The point is that this exploded the scaffolding industry and a dead industry, because of this code that, or city code that came passed by law. It's like now there's a multi-billion-dollar industry out of this random event, that one thing led to another. And that depicts the idea of also too the people that moved to California for the gold rush. The people looking for gold, like, you got luck if you got gold, but the people who made the most money were the people who built businesses and took care of that volume of people. Literally things exploded. And that to me depicts the whole idea concept of being well positioned, and that speaks to the bullishness of Multiverse X. I think it begs the question, who has a better face in the world of cryptocurrency than Multiverse X. Like, I think xDay is going to be phenomenal. I think it's going to be an extremely defining moment, trajectory speaking, because of all of the opportunities that were exposed in xDay 1 last year, where you talked about, we were laughing about the agenda wasn't even released, and we're there for the conference tomorrow, essentially. So to me, the fact that they're holding it at home in Romania is something that I think is going to be definitely worth attending. So feel free to respond, or else we can kind of move the conversation up and out through more discussion surrounding xDay.
Yeah. I think it also wraps it up quite nicely with the marketing, investing, and trading things as well. Trading, as we said earlier, it's very much gambling. It's trying to find an edge on a market and try and make a quick buck, basically. Yeah. And then you've got the investing, which is the more long term, and you really believe in it and you really gain from it being adopted and used, and then the value going up. And then actually the third thing, which is the thing that I think a lot of people realize in the end, businesses, starting your own businesses and creating that is where you really make the real money. And I think that's an interesting point to just bring into there as well. But yeah, we can move on from there.
Beautiful. So what are your thoughts on xDay? I know we've been going for some time now, so feel free to be as detailed, and I think that we'll have to get more into it maybe post xDay and hear how your whole experience was. But especially considering the proof of work through xSpaces we talked about, you've been a metaphorical sponge for the ecosystem, arguably more than anybody else. So you should own that, for one. And for two, what are you concocting? What you're seeing lots of different sides to the conversation. You've been following the story for long enough. Let's hear it. What's coming for the industry? And then, of course, if that includes Multiverse X, or if you want to focus on Multiverse X, I'm ready to hear it.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And obviously it's 6 days away now, or 7 days away. So about a week away.
Calendar. Yeah.
And so I'm really excited. And it's going to be great. There's going to be obviously some big names there, Amazon Web Services, then Tencent Cloud. And then there's going to be other ones as well, along with Circle, with the new VP for Europe, of course.
Google is there as well.
Yeah, they are. And a lot of big names actually. So I'm really excited about that. They're really going for the cloud space, it seems right now, and very much the technology. So business to business kind of services. I would say that's what the team's really looking at. And I think they're going to have some exciting announcements, which during X Day, I think they're going to have exciting announcements, which I think most people will just not think about. It will like go over their heads, and it will be things that will be long term, as we've always seen in the past. They always go long term, and they love these big partnerships like Tencent Cloud, for example. People were excited about Tencent Cloud because of TikTok, because of Fortnite, and all these kind of things. But I think what they really missed, and I think you were there for that little space that I did for that, they really missed the opportunity for the business to business, and the business to business market is massive. And that's really where you're dealing with the billion-dollar companies, which also may look at your technology or may look at people using your technology and go, that's really cool. I might actually acquire them and all this kind of stuff. And that's where you really get the integration into business world. And that's where the real money is.
Mm.
So that would be really interesting. Tencent Cloud also, they're the sponsorship, the main partner for the gaming, which is very interesting, of course, because they have Fortnite and they have a whole gaming studio. So it'll be interesting to see if they start to try and use MultiversX in their gaming ways as well, or if they are just trying to look for new gaming opportunities that they can kind of bring into their ecosystem.
Mm.
And that's kind of what I'm expecting from the team. I'm also kind of expecting X Fabric to at least have a demo,
Mm.
if not a launch. I'm kind of expecting that.
Right.
And I also posted a a little speculative tweet a little bit ago, a couple of weeks ago or something, suggesting that maybe Amazon Web Services or one of these big companies, I'm not sure which one, maybe one of them will be partnering, a strategic partnership with actually MultiversX. And the reasons for that was because of the unusual trading activity during the time of the announcement of AWS
Mm.
being a new partner to the hackathon. And a lot of those unusual trading activities were big volumes of buying out of nowhere. And it reminded me a lot of what happened when Tencent was partnered with and the announcement was made. The massive jump in volume of buy was instant. In fact, I think it was even a little bit before the news really came out. And one of the reasons I think that was because under the partnership was they were supposed to buy a node so that they can also validate the ecosystem as well. So they might be doing a similar kind of thing here as well.
No, yeah.
And I don't know if you wanted to jump in there
I
before I went more.
Sure. No, it's funny you mentioned this because I checked out your account and this is a specific tweet of yours that I pulled, which be down in the description for sure. Because yeah, and my response to that is skepticism because I don't know,
Mm.
perhaps there is a portion on an NDA where everything is decided, what they're going to do, how much money they're going to move, how many nodes, maybe dude, I have no idea. NDAs are just a black mirror, or whatever. So my speculation or my skepticism rather is just from a standpoint of if as you say, I think a lot of things are going to be announced that are long term and they're going to go over people's heads. Doesn't that perspective misalign with the idea of like the day the announcement was made, like the EGLD was bought? So it's like unless there's
Yeah.
like an NDA weirdness, it's like that doesn't jive to me because it's like and that's a question for me. It's like, oh, like that today this partnership got announced, and is there any realm of possibility that some names are getting announced and certain people are seeing it and they're like, what's this? And like literally, like I want to know these partnerships. Why doesn't, I don't know, maybe it would be too transparent or revealing business operations and things, but I don't, at this very moment, what I'm more interested in is when did these conversations become real? Because like
Hmm.
Are these long-term things that stretch years, maybe multiple years back, or did AWS announce that they're joining the hackathon as a main partner, and then somebody from Google was like, what the heck is this? They threw their team at it, and within a day or two they were in conversation with the MultiversX team, and it's just like, is that how rapidly this fire can't? I know that's true. I know that that could be the reality, but is that the reality of what is happening? Because if so, if that's the level of attention that this is able to conjure from that domino perspective, like, that speaks volumes. It's like, did
Hmm.
all of these things form as a passive movement? It was all very, or is this catching fire? Because if I know, if I'm on the MultiversX business team and I know when this shit happened and I'm witnessing these things spark, like, I mean, that's some really key insider data that I would love insight to.
That would be really interesting. And I think you're right. A lot of these players, in fact, I was thinking that a couple of days ago, if you've got one of your main competitors coming to a big conference in blockchain and you're also thinking, we should be looking at blockchain as well, you're going to be like, why are we not there then? Like
Yeah,
we need
yeah.
to get there. And
Oh.
it's obviously it is a big event. It's got the big hackathon, $1 million in prizes and funding. And yeah, I think also I would say, yeah, it was a very speculative tweet. I would not lie about that. But it was a bit unusual. And also in terms of like why didn't they announce then, for example? Well, why would they announce when in a month's time or less than a month, they're going to be on stage together and they're going to
Yeah.
be in a big event? Anyway, I'm not saying that they will necessarily have a partnership. I was just giving a possible idea of that happening.
No, yeah, I
But
like
I
what
think
you.
one of
Go ahead, please.
sorry, I was just gonna just quickly say with xDay, I think one of the things that I think is really going to be different this year round rather than last year is last year we got obviously the first day with MultiversX and they were announcing loads of things, loads of new products and all this kind of stuff that they were building and everything. I think this year is going to be more the community, the ecosystem, the companies that are building in the ecosystem. I think there's going to be a lot more exciting announcements from all of these companies. And I think that's almost going to be what's more exciting for this xDay event.
Yeah, yeah.
But sorry, I interrupted you.
All good, my man. That's my feeling. I mentioned a little bit about how xDay 2023, xDay 2, whichever you want to say, is going to be just so much further refined from what it was last year. And that was spoken through the idea of more logistics and kind of marketing and the approach. But my question baked in is this idea of, I feel like last year they learned, well, not only I believe that the bigger punch was inwardly focusing, it was this big shift. Elron network is now Multiverse X. Here are all these products. So I feel like xDay 1 was very inwardly focused, and the days after that were, it's like everybody was kind of like kind of shook a little bit from that main inward shift. And then everything else, to me, maybe I was just sleep deprived, but everything else just was a little bit more fluffy, all due respect. So this year I feel as though there's going to be developments on the items that they spoke on in xDay 1 that were inwardly focused. um, I would love to see these products released. Um,
Yeah.
I know that Multiverse X is a young company and they have room to improve, but if they are already a year late and they don't have these products shipping at X Day, I think that's going to be a miss. Not to say that this is going to affect the long term. So that's a little bit of my expectation, and my fingers crossed hope for the team, to step up to the plate and hit a home run on the first pitch. So maybe a football metaphor analogy would have been better, but this brings the concept of the kind of the xDay effect into picture, because what xDay 1 happened, they got delayed, they changed the roadmap, and it's like, well, come on, like, we're not, as you said about these partnerships, it's like we're not going to say a lot about it, we're going to be on stage with them in a couple weeks or months, or maybe even within the year. like a yearly event is not a huge, like that's a short term period of time, I would say, in the business cycle. So for
Yeah.
the Multiverse X, all of their inward developments, I think this year is going to be different from a standpoint of um, dates on a calendar. Forget them. What is a date on the calendar? I mean, the next date is xDay. It's not going to be, look at these 10 products and this, and we're going to release one every 2 weeks. It's just like, let's move on from that paradigm, because it's not good for the investors and it's not good for the face of the business. So that's my, again, kind of hope and expectation. The dates are going to be out the door, because dates to me are still speculative, and they just introduce a conversation of friction that doesn't need to be there. Just, what if at X Day
Yeah.
last year they just left dates out of it? And they're like, check, this is what we're building. It's like, dates to me are just weak. They're weak. Give us the products, or tell us when they're going to be here for real. So that's what I'm hoping
Mm.
for. I'll leave you some space to respond there.
Yeah, I think, you're very much correct with all that. We saw X Worlds announced by Benny on stage. Supposedly the demo was going to be 2 weeks after the X Day 2022. It never happened. And then it was supposed to be in April time. It never happened. Then it was supposed to be like September or something. It never happened. So we don't really know what's going on with. They're gonna give an update on it for sure. They're gonna be saying what's happening. Well, actually, if they don't give an update, I think it's a little bit worrying with that product. But I think X Fabric will definitely be talked about. They'll definitely be showing a demo. I hope they launch it, but I think they'll definitely show a demo. And I think they're going to talk a lot about the fundamentals, the real nitty gritty,
Yeah.
really complicated technical stuff, which I love, but I know a lot of other people don't really care about.
I
But
think that
yeah,
they're
I
going to
think
do a
they'll
great
go into
job.
that.
Sorry to interrupt, because I'd like you to keep saying, but based off what you said, I think they're going to do a great job of helping us visualize why this is important. The
Yeah.
idea of the truth machine and everything else. Like, I think that has to be the way forward as well, does it not? Like, all these things, it's like that we need to find a one point that is like this metaphorical opening gate to, like, yes, like, this is why it makes sense. And I think bridging that gap is the pinnacle, the point, rather the focus of how to do this all, because there needs to be a mindset shift. And if we can't conceptualize the deep computer science of why it all, filters up and should be this way, I mean, you need to start like we're children, right? I mean, that's what they asked us whenever X Exchange launched. They put on a campaign and they were like, explain it to us like we're five. It's just like, you first, like, you show us how to do it.
Mm, no, exactly. And this is complicated stuff,
Yeah.
and they are doing an incredible job with it. And we try and cover on xSpaces when we can, but it's really good to have the people that are building it talking about it. And I think they'll do a good job with that. But um, I think also, to be fair, talking about that kind of stuff, if they've got the right people from Google, the right people from AWS, and all these people, they might impress them as well. I know they'll be having these conversations in the background anyway, but I think they'll probably learn a lot from just being in that environment. And
Yeah,
I think
it's on
also the
all of us
hackathon.
to be there. We gotta
Yeah,
we gotta impress these people with numbers.
exactly. And I think the hackathon's going to be massive. I do wonder a little bit if they're like spreading themselves a little bit thin or something with all of that. But because, a lot of them are also judges for this hackathon. So I
Do you think
think
it's
they're
gonna
doing
be
it
a
though.
shit show?
No, I think they've strategically done the judging of the hackathon on the day when it's like the community's day for X Day, when the community are talking. So Benny doesn't have to be on stage and all this kind of stuff. So I think they've done it in that way, but it's going to be a lot for them to manage and a lot for them to do for sure.
Dude, yeah. Honestly, I can't say whether or not I'll be there yet. Honestly, I could book the flight the night
Oh, it'd be
before for all I
amazing if you
care.
could, but I understand, obviously it's a long journey and it costs a lot of money as well.
Yeah, man. Back when I was buying locked mechs before X Exchange launched, I should have just found an amount of eagle to just put into staking to pay for xday. But here we
Mm.
are, we're still working and thinking if there's some way to get me there. Like I said, it might be
So, sorry, let me just ask you real quick. Do you think they will address mechs? And if they don't address it, do you think that's, a bad sign from them?
well, whatever mechs is how they will treat it, if that makes sense. I think that if mechs, people have said it time and time again that mechs is just a dex token. But on the other hand, I think that with the whole mechs to one movement, I think that I at least explained to a lot of people that it's not just a dex token, even though the price is hyperinflationary and has fallen a great deal. It's not just a dex token. I mean, it's just like the eagle native architecture is so unique, and we didn't even get about into any of that technicality,
Mm.
but the
Yeah.
same level of attention and thought, same is probably an exaggeration, but the team spent a lot of time thinking about this in a new way. And before this DEX token emerged, I remember there was some form of a layer 2 DEX that was giving out this token. And this token got so much popularity because of the liquidity on the layer 2 that it got to be a meme coin. But it was just weak. Some developers just like made a meme coin and then they made a DEX token. But the thing was that they made this unique little game around how to use those dex tokens, and there were different ways to utilize them, and they had different interfacing. Like there was something along the lines of like dog bones, and this is having to do with doge, and it could have maybe like maybe this was the shib token, dude. Holy cow, forgot about shib, whatever. But before x exchange energy came out, I was like, dang it, what the hell? Like that's kind of cool that like the Dex token on Doge, like the whatever, like it was kind of fun. It wasn't just like a oh yeah, it's a Dex token and put it in staking. And it's like they took all of the words that are new vernacular to the new investor and they just revisualized them as like, oh no, these are bones and you're bearing your bones. And it was silly. And I feel silly talking about it, but I liked that idea. I saw that and I was like, yeah, like we need to dumb this stupidly down. So it's like, how do you make
Mm.
something so complicated, not so
Yeah.
stupid and actually thoughtful, but still simple enough that a basic user can interface with it and understand it? And then they released the whole energy dex paper. And it was for me so exciting. It was the next chapter. I spent all this time learning about my exchange as it approached its launch, and now this new
Mm.
story has emerged. And what am I supposed to say? The potential is there with Mex. So is the potential with blockchain. It's like all of this stuff is just dry gunpowder that, whether it's chance or just the right culmination of getting things in the right place, like it's all going to ignite. And all I know is that every cryptocurrency cycle that I've witnessed, there has been an area of euphoria, which is very much price driven, but the technology is getting to a point where it's advancing to where it's really actually like casually usable. And also like other companies and ideas have like been bringing in crypto, referring to like the Bitcoin ETF. It's just like literally slowly as the bear market trudges along, like the world doesn't realize that cryptocurrency is becoming normalized. So whenever
Yeah.
it's,
It's
dude,
true.
that's just like that's the whole gravitational shift, and that's going to be the snap of the new emergence of this technology. Is like we know that that magnet is getting larger and the other magnet is getting closer, and it's just going to snap, and it's just going to be so clear and evident, and it's just going to be, in my opinion, a pretty transparent shift that likely will be observable in price. And that's all I'm going to
Yeah.
say because I don't even know what topic we're on anymore. You can't talk to me about mechs, man. What'd you tell? Did you say something about mechs or did I bring it up?
I did. Well, I don't remember who brought it up first, but I did ask the question.
Well, anyway,
It's
man.
always a bad idea.
No, it was a great idea, but it's a conversation that just like all of
No.
our other topics have tangents among tangents. And man,
Yeah.
my voice is literally just starting to crack as we're coming to what I'll call a bit of an outro close down. We've talked about a lot today, Tom, and it's been just so much fun every step of the way. I'm not quite ready to close out because I have one final question for you, which you know is coming. But here it is. What is the multiverse? What is it?
Yeah, it's when I first listened to your interview with Crypto Div, I really liked that question, and I actually kind of similar to him in some ways. I didn't even think about Multiverse X when I first thought about it, and like just thinking about it now, I see multiverse as obviously, with films and games and all these things, you have this concept of a multiverse being this reality in physics, which actually could potentially be possible if you look into physical papers. But that's another topic. And the reality of being able to have, different universes where different things can happen, different memes can be realities, and what we see today could just be fantasies. And I would say what the multiverse is a collection of anything being possible, a collection of anyone's innovations, anything that people think just hasn't been realized yet. And I think once you realize it, then you've created your own multiverse. And, in other multiverses, some dreams come true, some dreams don't come true. In our one, some dreams come true, some don't come true. And it's just really cool to see what kind of dreams can come true. And that's kind of how I see it. There's a little bit of a philosophical idea of it, but
Dude,
that's
man.
my viewpoint.
Yeah, man, that's yet another awesome response. And every time I enjoy hearing the response from my guests because I always have all these new thoughts, and some are repeating thoughts, but some are expansions of previous thoughts. And my response this time is the idea of what is the multiverse? Well, first, what's the universe? And the idea encapsulating bringing into what you just shared, like, yeah, man, I mean, like, it's just an interesting thought because we know that there are religious texts and there are historical texts, which is within the so historical text includes religious text for the most part. But the idea of how would the world be different if we had blockchain back then, and history could have began its verifiable journey how long ago, like how long, I mean, and that's just like crazy, man. It's like you said this something that spurred this about a fantasy world. And I mean, some of these religious texts like they're fantasy worlds because it's belief. what
Mm,
what the hell, like we can't verify that, and it was written by these type of people in this certain, like, dude, like it's just crazy, the even just like the humanitarian shift of that mind of like, whoa, like, yeah, like it's going to be a new shift to that degree, to where even this conversation, yeah, I mean, we have the internet, which we'll be able to like look back and verify maybe that this video is valid. But of course deep fakes could come along, fake this whole conversation. They could interject false realities into the past to the ignorant eye. But yeah, man, just the idea of like blockchain creating this platform of history to begin being written without the trust of people carrying that message along. And
yeah.
in a roundabout way, I ended up answering my question of that's how there can be trust in a trustless system, or better yet, just like, what does that even mean? Trustless system. It's like, yeah, a lot to be unpacked there.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. And, talking about proof of work, you're showing proof of work right now with all the videos that you're doing. So I just want to thank you again for having me on, and for the quality of the videos as well. I think a lot of people are appreciating that. And I just can't wait to see the rest of this season. And I wish you good luck. And I recommend everyone to subscribe,
That's
and also to just follow Stephen on Twitter as well, or X if you want to call it that.
we got to at this point, I suppose. Twitter is gone.
Yep.
Well, yeah, well, you began the outro there better than me. So with that being said, man, thank you, Mr. Tom, for all of your time, all of your thoughts, energy, everything that you kind of, brought to this moment. I mean, I'm looking forward to sharing this episode, but I'm equal parts looking forward to giving the opportunity to, put you on the channel again so more people can get behind your brain. So I'm looking forward to that next chat. Like I said, at least a time or two in this video already. All the links and all the profiles to follow and subscribe will be in the description below. Tom, is there anything, earlier when you were talking about the hackathon and your MVP, I was going to ask them, but I'll ask now as I kind of allow you to share anything you'd like to show. And the question being whether there's any way for people to get involved with what business you're building on the blockchain. Where can people find you? I'll just, lay out the red carpet for you to take us on out.
Yeah, thanks. So, I'm mostly on X. You can follow me, Rad Reese, or at Thomas Reese 2. I don't post that much at the moment, although I'll probably start ramping it up again soon. I only post quality, what I think is quality content, typically, sometimes some speculative plays, but I don't post that much. So, join if you'd like to hear, or just, come and chat, DM me. Also xSpaces, as Stephen said earlier, we do conversations twice a week normally. At least one of them is normally interviewing a company. In fact, tomorrow, so last week from when this comes out, we'll be interviewing Pulsar Money, and I expect that to be a great one as well. So listen to that if you'd like, and listen to any of the ones we've done in the past. In terms of the MVP and stuff like that, I'm hoping I can get a small MVP out for the hackathon. If I can't, I'll get it out at some point. But in terms of like joining the company and stuff like that, just as sharing to charities to join, sharing it to other people that are interested in that kind of idea. I'm very open to discussions if people want to join me in building it, or if people just want to talk about the conversation. Very open for that. And yeah, thank you.
Awesome, man. Tom, as I said already, it's been awesome just hanging out with you. Pretty cool that technology allows us to just almost feel as close as possible to continuing that conversation from xDay last year. So, like I said earlier in the video, stay tuned for that. It sounds like we might see a little bit more of Tom on the channel. So yeah, definitely let us know if you're watching. Thank you so much. And Tom, I'll let you get going here and we'll finish up today's episode, and look forward to seeing everybody's reactions to xDay, including yours, Tom. So thanks again, man. And we'll see you back.
Pleasure.
Hope to see you in person soon. We'll see. But much love.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah. Much love, man.
All right, everyone, we are back. How was that conversation with Tom? I hope you liked it. I really enjoyed the conversation. So much we got into. So drop a like. Let me know what you liked in the comments the most. And make sure to share the conversation online with your friends. And yeah, make sure to follow Tom on X as well as Web3 Spaces. I talked about it so much in the conversation. Hopefully I sent the message for you to check it out. But as promised, we have just a short little technical analysis market update that I just want to get into. So before we head out for the day's episode and I get on my way to Romania, check out the screen in front of you. As you can see, we've got the Bitcoin chart. So I just want to be real simple here. It's easy for me to get pretty lost in the technical analysis. It's just exciting, but at the end of the day, it's part of my philosophy, and it's kind of what's behind my name, The Economistic on X, is that it's all a bit of a crystal ball technical analysis. I think it's important to just establish a fundamental reasoning that you find something to be valuable, choose a direction, and stick it with it in the long term. So that also is what informed my decision to invest in the MEX token. It's a very long-term move, but I am very long-term bullish on this whole Web3 crypto blockchain paradigm. So very simply putting it, we've been going in this bear market for a long time now, a huge downturn. The bear market lasted, basically a year longer than I expected it to. And despite, you can see this growth here in Bitcoin ever since, late last year, the altcoin market has really not been growing very much. I believe this entire move from the around $16,000 level to as high as $32,000 or so has very much just been a gradual growth phase. As you can see at the bottom there, the volume over that period of time has really been decreasing. So what that tends to indicate for me is that the average investor, the average interest is finding its foundation. So whether it be the FTX kind of collapse or these previous capitulatory sell-offs in the past, all of those are going to spike a lot of volume, which indicates a lot of interest, indicates a lot of money that's been kind of pent up in the market through these assets. So now that we've been growing up and out of what I would call the bear market, I believe that we are in the early stages of a bull market here, as we've been just kind of rising. It's been really great to see this, but also it's very intimidating because we know how volatile Bitcoin can be. So just drawing some levels here, something to keep an eye on. You know, this huge wick down there at about the $20,000 mark. Honestly, that's something that I was kind of anticipating that might happen here over the past several weeks, because this area between about $25,000 and $30,000 has been trading sideways. And I would say that anytime the price is trading sideways, it always lends to kind of have a capitulatory huge sell-off event in order to just get rid of all of the people that were either they have sell orders in a triggered environment, or they're just waiting for the moment to sell because they don't really have a good confident position. So if I double click here, it should bring up a few of my favorite indicators. I'm going to go ahead and just hide the volume. So this is the weekly chart. Each one of these candles is 1 week of data, which in my opinion is definitely a longer term view. So as you can see here on the MACD, which is moving average convergence divergence. So this is two different indicators of price that dance around each other and help us to get an idea of where the momentum is. So as you can see here, over the past several months, there has been a shift from bearish momentum to now back to not bullish quite yet, but even today there is a little bit of positive growth and some clear buying action that's going on. So it's a little bit still too early to say that we're in a bull market, even though I feel confident that we are in the early stages of a bull market. You know, we really need a huge price move to kind of, indicate, give us some move of confidence into the direction of where the broader market might be going. It's anybody's game, right? Because what price action is Bitcoin versus US dollar going to have? If Bitcoin goes down, will that mean that people start to move money into altcoins? If the market's ready for that. Maybe now is the time for the altcoins to really start to grow in market valuation, market dominance against Bitcoin. But on the other hand, what if Bitcoin just really starts to explode? And what would that mean for altcoins? The idea is that the Bitcoin price is going to really have a huge say on what the market does. Even though the US dollar value of some of these altcoins will likely rise in the event that Bitcoin rises, that's really due to the fact that these altcoins are paired and traded with Bitcoin itself. So it's this idea of a rising tide raises all boats. And a lot of people trade altcoins only from the standpoint of increasing their Bitcoin allocation. So for me, because I'm such kind of a MultiversX maxi, my goal is to hold some Bitcoin and take advantage of buying more EGLD as the price, as the trading value against EGLD and Bitcoin decreases. So the idea is that EGLD weakens in valuation against Bitcoin, so then therefore you can buy more EGLD with your Bitcoin. But the truth is, that's not something that I'm really actively doing right now. That's just a strategy that some people do. in order to increase their accumulation of some of the assets that they believe in. So let's go over to the EGLD US dollar chart, and you can see, actually, if I bring up both of these charts, you can see that there's just a great deal of correlation in the look of some of these price actions, looking at Bitcoin versus USD versus EGLD versus USD. It's a very similar idea where a rising tide raises all ships. Here in November of 2021, when Bitcoin was at most $69,000, that just so happens to be whenever EGLD was also at its highest. And then, as we have seen here, you can see even though Bitcoin has kind of increased in price off of this huge wedge, the direction has continued to trend downwards for EGLD. So what this means, and what I was kind of referring to earlier, is that in the event that you're holding Bitcoin and the price kind of rises, whereas perhaps if you're interested in buying EGLD, the valuation is going down, of course that means you can buy more EGLD with your Bitcoin, and that's a good trade. So I want to now direct your attention to the EGLD Bitcoin chart, because that really speaks much more to the opportunity of holding Bitcoin during the bear market. As you can see here, if you were able to at least take your profits of EGLD and move them into Bitcoin at its highest mark, then you would really be sitting pretty. The price of EGLD against Bitcoin has fallen 90% against Bitcoin. So that means that if you were holding Bitcoin, even though the US dollar value of Bitcoin has fallen, if you at this point moved that Bitcoin back into EGLD, you're making really great trades, taking advantage of the market action of altcoins. A lot of the time, altcoins are a higher risk asset, so therefore in the event that there's fear or worry that there is a bear market in the midst of or ensuing, a lot of people will move out of those higher risk assets into either Bitcoin or into fiat currency or into a more traditional sense of stocks, bonds, maybe some commodities. And maybe if you really time the market well, maybe you did something like bought a house with your crypto, and more power to you. We're all trying to get there, right? Get to a place where we're managing our investment portfolio and we're making really, really solid moves to progress kind of our lives and create new futures for whatever we want in our life, whether that be building business with resource that we earned from our crypto investment. Obviously everybody has a lot of different pursuits and missions and passions behind their investment journey. So I posted this on my Twitter account just a couple days ago, and so the big disclaimer here, as always, not financial advice, but with that, price can always go down farther. I think it goes without saying that there's no way to really avoid risk. And looking at the 2-week candles, I think that I'm really excited by what to me is a very clear shift of momentum. So as I already mentioned about the Bitcoin US dollar chart, we're seeing the momentum shifting closer and closer to a bullish break. And in a very similar way, again, this is the EGLD Bitcoin chart, not the EGLD USD chart, which the EGLD USD chart, truthfully, in my opinion, creates a better representation of Bitcoin's price action versus US dollar. So my belief is, yes, the analyzing altcoins against US dollar is going to give you good insight, and it's going to allow you to understand where your cost basis is and where the levels of support might be. But my belief is that the Bitcoin to EGLD chart is crypto to crypto and is a much more natural and organic relationship, considering that they're both in a similar category of asset, being digital assets. So as I was saying, I posted this on my Twitter account a little bit ago, maybe yesterday or the day before. And here's the deal is, back in 2019, when I first bought EGLD, it was ERD, which I just have to say because it, is awesome to be that early in the process of finding EGLD and being a part of the community in some way. So I bought a little bit of ERD back in 2019, but the point is that I started to accumulate EGLD during this downtrend. So as you can see on your screen in front of you, this hindsight is 2020 when it comes to technical analysis, and I think that I guess I would call this a bull flag, because obviously from its low, according to Bitcoin, from its high, it increased about 2,000%. So this dates back to summer of year 2020, when the mainnet for MultiversX was launched, and it was really exciting. As you can see here, the price against Bitcoin moved huge amounts, over 2,000, over 2,500% increase, and from there, that was exciting for me, because that was really that main huge indication that crypto has gone, like, crypto is here to stay. Crypto is here to stay, and whenever I had a little bit of ERD, the mainnet launched, and my portfolio just started to grow, and I hadn't seen that growth, since the heat of the 2017 bull market. And that was really exciting for me, because that gave me just this reassurance, this confidence that my convictions, the things that I learned about blockchain, about cryptocurrency, are really actually coming to fruition, and it's not just a get-rich-quick scheme. Even though whenever you buy these high-risk assets in their early business cycles, there's so much risk. But I believe that whenever you expose yourself to the asset, yes, there's downside risk, but because we're investing so far before mainstream adoption, the potential for growth it just so far outweighs the downside, which, as we already talked about, Bitcoin has fallen 70%, EGLD against Bitcoin has fallen 90%, and we didn't even talk about MEX, which against EGLD has fallen 95 to 99% in value. So the bear market is not easy. The bear market will wipe away not just the gains that you experienced during the bull market, but it's likely going to really test your position, as it has tested mine. Basically liquidating myself to the point where all I have left in my portfolio is more or less NFTs and XMEX. And that's the situation that I'm at. But honestly, I'm happy with that, because I'm still fully exposed. And it's the longer the bear market progresses, in my head, the closer and closer we get to a true bullish momentum shift. And I do believe that the coming shift is going to be one of great proportions. Every bull run that I've experienced in crypto has expanded and grown and appreciated so much more than I really ever imagined. I remember at some point in 2020, around then, when EGLD was about $8 to $10 when I was accumulating, I made a post, and this was before I probably had 300 followers on X, on Twitter back then, and I made a tweet about, hey, anyone out there, check out what's going on with this token. It's $8 right now, and 1,000%, give or take, is a 10x increase, which would have been $80. And I was typing, and I was like, anything is possible in the world of cryptocurrency. And I was in it for the long haul. Excuse me, but that prediction or foresight, whatever you want to call it, it wasn't so much a prediction. It just happened really quickly. And it not only happened quickly, but price moved past that 10x from $8 to $80 and went all the way to $550 in November of 2021. So all of the bull markets that I have been exposed to, the upside far outweighs the downside. Now, again, that speaks into question the idea of risk management and taking money off the table, taking profits. We all do our best. And my hope is that you're able to execute on trades, and you're able to really just build an exciting portfolio that you're making trades, and you're just using the bear market to your advantage. So bringing it back around to call your attention to the MACD and the RSI, which is a relative strength index. Again, the 2-week candles, in my opinion, are very long-term candles. And as you can see here, down what's going on the MACD, this is what's called a bullish cross. As you can see, these two lines kind of dance around each other, creating a histogram round about that center period, that center area. And if we zoom in here, you can start to see that green emerging, and that has to do with these two lines, which these two moving averages are crossing, which means that there is a momentum shift. The momentum is shifting to bullish. And I meant to say this earlier when I was talking about this bull flag, that I accumulated that so heavily because to me there was a great disparity between the price falling and what in my opinion were very positive fundamentals. Fundamentals being trying to come to an intrinsic value of these assets, establishing for yourself why these are valuable. And to me, Bitcoin, there's a lot of reason for it to be valuable intrinsically. And then beyond that, I'm so bullish MultiversX that I think that there are probably at least 10 more reasons to be bullish on EGLD as a successor to Bitcoin. And then again, I've talked a little bit about MEX already, about its energy concept and about how it's locked for 4 years. That might be a negative for some people, but I think that the opportunity for the supply to be locked for 4 years creates an opportunity for the community to bring a lot of growth to that DEX token. But yeah, so as I was saying, EGLD Bitcoin 2-week charts, these should be key points for you to pay attention to. But as you can see, the RSI, the relative strength index, it's shifting closer to a bullish cross as well. But the truth is that price could always go lower, but I just like the idea that with xDay just around the corner and these indicators that you can see in front of you are basically at their lowest points ever. So kind of riding away some of this early price action from 2019. The price of EGLD is more or less at its lowest. I'll say that it's not so much at its lowest as much as right now there is an extremely weak price action. There's been so much selling that it's caused these indicators to just go so low. So again, looking at this at the 2-week time frame, the opportunity, in the event that price moves bullishly and this MACD curve goes from where it is all the way at the top, as it has shifted all the way down. So imagine a world, where it comes back again and, it kind of retests that height of bullishness. And beyond this, what if something like hypergrowth really happens? What if, the next billion users really are adopted via MultiversX? And is this where we're going to stop? I don't think so. I mean, this entire representation here is a depiction of a certain period of time where cryptocurrency and all of these concepts were so new, so very speculative. But over the bear market, the speculation is being replaced by true, meaningful fundamentals, and this is shifting in the community. You can see more and more people are buying EGLD, staking EGLD, participating in the community, getting involved. So I get a little bit too excited talking about the bullish narrative because, if the MACD were to kind of retest these hyper bullish behaviors, where in the world is that going to lead price? Because so many people have been accumulating EGLD at such a low price. To me, that is what brings the fuel to the bull market, is that all of a sudden there's much more realization of the intrinsic value and the use case for these assets. And I think that a lot of people will come to realize how to use these assets in a really exciting way. And at that point, people are going to demand EGLD because it will give them access to the blockchain, to sending transactions, to participating in metaverses, in DeFi opportunities to get yield. The possibilities are really endless. And in the world where all of the population involved in this previous sector, in a world where millions and billions are interested in getting involved in buying these assets, we could see a sharp rise, an extremely sharp rise in these two moving averages that, who's to say? I'm not here necessarily to make predictions of price. All I am doing is sharing this observable, objective data with you, acknowledging that yes, price could go lower, but at the same time, the opportunity right now, considering how weak these indicators are, it should be a really confident place for people to accumulate right now. So that's really all I want to get into it with technicals. With xDay around the corner, there's just so much excitement building, and even with Bitcoin having some growth over the past even 24 hours, there's just a lot of potential. And the world is full of potential, and it's all a matter as to whether or not there is a spark that gets thrown at all of this gunpowder, all of this dry gunpowder. It's like, will all of this really just spark into shape and start to go crazy again? My expectation is a capital Y yes. Maybe it's an all caps yes, because it's just the nature of speculation, of the opportunity for people to change their lives, because if you buy at a good price and the price grows, you can really do a lot with those newfound resources. So I'm very excited about all of these advancements, all of the fundamentals, and I just can't wait to see what happens at xDay 2023 in Romania. So that's all I've got to share with you for today's episode. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you're still watching now, leave me a comment, say something crazy like, economistic to the moon, or MVX podcast to the moon, because this was a long episode. And I'm a bit overwhelmed just trying to pack up and get ready for xDay, just considering how quickly I decided to pull the trigger on the tickets and decide to go. So I wanted to get this episode out for everybody, and most importantly because of that Mex to One marathon that will be happening. Can't wait to see what sort of excitement, what sort of community bands around that idea. Drop a like, drop a comment, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you on the next episode of Multiverse Experience Podcast. Economistic out. Peace.